This episode has a Flojoy pop. Be the first to comment on our Instagram post with the time we crack open our Flojoy waters and win some Flojoy swag from Chris Roach and his family. Season 10 is presented by Flojoy Water, Chris Roach's family business. Refresh your style with Flojoy Artesian Mountain Water, pure water, pure stoke, and essential toothpaste tabs. Earth-friendly, adventure-ready toothpaste. Clean ingredients, supported by science. Wired Snowboards factory in Vancouver builds high-quality custom snowboards for about the same price as other brands' regular boards. I've created several one-of-a-kind wired customs, including a Chase 162 that's seen hundreds of my best powder days. Get yourself a game-changing snowboard and join the Wired team with Devin Walsh, Sasha Daly, and many others. Wired Snowboards. For more information, go to wiredsnowboards.com. Fixed bindings are my go-to for all my snowboards because they're comfortable, durable, and look rad. Fix makes bindings I want to ride. Simple, lightweight, and dependable, made from the best materials, using the most environmentally friendly production processes possible. They offer lifetime warranty on bases and buckles. If you're looking for affordable performance bindings in the perfect color to match your fit, go to fixbindingco.com or grab them at your local retailer. Bluebird Coffee Tuning and Rentals in Squamish is the coolest new stop on your way to Whistler. Bluebird offers quality board tunes using state-of-the-art equipment, premium rentals for every level of rider with demos of Burton step-ons, and award-winning coffee and incredible smoothies. For a blend of expert knowledge, convenience, and lots of charm, stop by Bluebird in Squamish and get your board tuned at the newest mandatory stop on your way to Whistler. Rip Curl's anti-series outerwear is engineered to keep you warm, dry, and comfortable no matter where your adventure takes you. Written by pros like Chris Rasman, Rip Curl is built to perform in any mountain conditions all over the world. The Rip Curl Planet program means they create outerwear with recycled materials and sustainable practices, so stay protected, stay warm, and join Rip Curl in protecting the planet. Shop the Anti-Series today at ripcurl.com and authorized dealers. Pro Standard makes the grill mount the best mount for your Insta360, GoPro, or DJI camera. It's a heat-moldable mouth mount, tripod, hand grip, hook mount, bottle mount, wall mount, clamp mount, glove mount, and shoe mount, designed by snowboard legend Ken Achenbach to get you the perfect angle for snowboarding, surfing, biking, and it'll replace 90% of your other mounts. Use code FNRad to get 20 off your first order at prostandard.com. Support also comes from our friends at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop. Check out boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 for 10% off regular priced items and FNRAD5 for 5% off sale items. 1910, the collaborative artworks of Jamie Lynn and Scof. FNRAD20 saves you 20% off at 1910.com. New Greens, the superfood green drink sourced from American farms. Use code FNRAD for 20% off at newgreens.com. I want to thank DeKine Snowboard outerwear, travel bags, and backpacks, and our friends at Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, and Cypress Mountain for their support. Jeffrey Fulton is a linchpin in the snowboarding community. Without his contributions, the world would be a different place. Jeff brought Craig Kelly into the fold, mentoring him as a BMX racer and eventually taking Craig out snowboarding for the first time. He's a founding member of the MBHC and the guy behind the latest run of Mount Baker Hardcore stickers, shirts, and beanies. So if you want something MBHC, reach out to him on social media. For this interview, Jeff and his long-term partner Angie invited me into their home in Glacier, Washington, on the Mount Baker Highway, where they live on a beautiful creek with their dog. Jeffrey Fulton was our fourth guest ever, and 9 years later, I consider him a friend and one of the great early pro snowboarders in snowboarding.
My dad was in the military. He served in the Navy for over 25 years. My mom also served in the Navy for a while, and then she was a teacher. And And then in 1970, when I was 10 years old, they bought the Schwinn Bike Shop in Mount Vernon. And so it was a Schwinn Bike Shop and like Jacobson lawnmowers. And it was a bike shop, lawnmower shop, and locksmith. And so my dad was like a jack of all trades. And I'm going to praise all the stuff that he did. Like he was like, he could crack safes. He could pick locks.
No way.
He repaired he worked on bicycles. He repaired lawnmowers. Like, yeah, he was like a master, one of those old school dudes, It's like, could just pretty much do anything he wanted to set his mind to,
Our generation's the last of that.
Yeah.
And like back in the day, people could just fix everything.
Yeah.
Because it was worth fixing too.
Yeah, the things were better quality, and it was things were cheaper. You could actually fix stuff and repair it and get parts for it.
Yeah, so you
try to fix something, you have to order the part and wait 6
and
weeks
it's not worth it because buying a new one is
cheaper.
Probably cheaper than and definitely faster than waiting. Mm-hmm. Somewhere around the same price as fixing it yourself. Actually, one of the adapters for these cameras, both of them got fucked up. I fixed one and I bought the other off Amazon because when I went to fix the second one,
you're like,
I cut the thing too short,
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe I'll get it fixed at an electronics place. And they're like, we don't fix those, but you could buy a soldering iron and you could just solder it right to the motherboard. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Well, because fixing things is like in my blood, of course. You don't just throw something out as if.
Yeah. That's always the way it was.
Yeah. So that first bike was a Schwinn then probably?
Well, no, I mean, my first bicycle was some hand-me-down when I lived over in Eastern Washington. It was just I remember it being like, it was like just an old, it might even been a Schwinn, but I don't know, but it was just like, and it was just a single speed, with the coaster brake. And it was like, the coaster brake was kind of worn out because I remember like, you had to pedal a few times for before it actually catch.
What is that mechanism that
it
just wears out?
It was inside. It was the driver because there was like a driver, and it had like a corkscrew thread, and then there was the actual shoes in here, which were the brake shoes.
Yeah.
And like if that driver wore out, then it's like it took a few times for it to spin before it actually would catch.
You'd have to really think about braking. I remember that having a bike that had a coaster brake that it wasn't just straight back. It was like maybe one time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my first bicycle. And then they bought the bike shop, and luckily they bought the bike shop because they were looking at a gas station in Concrete, Washington, which I'm glad I didn't end up there.
Yeah, that would have been a completely different history for everybody. I wouldn't have gotten into snowboarding because you wouldn't have gotten Craig into snowboarding, and you know what I mean. Like it would just it would be a completely different place.
So luckily they got the bike shop, and I grew up in the bike shop basically because they were like that was right when the first bike boom hit because it was the early 70s, like 72 or whatever it was when we had that first gas crunch. Remember, it was like people were lined up to get gas, and so then bicycle sales
they spiked.
They spiked up, and so
cool.
So they were working the shop, 6 days a week, or they were open Tuesday through Saturday, and they were closed Sundays and Mondays because Mondays like how my mom would take care of the bank and all her stuff that she needed to do,
Yeah, because Sundays everything was closed. You couldn't even open a store on Sundays back in the day.
But still, even our house was right behind the bike shop, so even on our days off, people would be dropping lawnmowers and bicycles off because they knew
they knew where you lived.
So that kept them busy. But yeah, so my first real decent bike was a Schwinn. I can't remember even what it was, but then I got one first cool one was like a Schwinn. Pea picker, the Springer front end and the smaller. It looked like kind of like a chopper.
Yeah.
We were 5-speed and had brakes, drum brakes on the front, and it was like
oh wow,
the slick tire on the back, and it was like it was a pretty cool bike. And then I got into 10 speeds. And because road bikes was kind of, it was popular then, and there was like they had what they called the Century, where they had 100-mile bike ride down to Skagit County every year, and
cool.
I started doing that and stuff, and so
yeah, having speeds is good for that. Any distance riding, speed thing was a big
really
deal.
Cool, like it was a Falcon was the brand, and it was like Eddie Merckx signature like road bike,
rad,
big deal, and
that's super.
Had that, and then my dad had like the top of the line Schwinn Paramount,
cool,
which back in those days. They literally, when you ordered that bike, it was their top line road bike, and they would like custom the bike. The bike was built. You would send your measurements to the factory, kind of like Moonchild does with snowboards now. You could send your measurements to the factory, and they would custom build the frame to your body size. Because in reality, everybody's a little bit different, like shorter torso, longer torso. Anyway, so
you're blowing my mind. I never thought that bikes had that kind of a
just the Schwinn Paramount, and this was just like in the 70s, and they would all be hand built, and so my dad had one of those, and it was all chrome, and it was so I ride around every once in a while. I remember one time I rode it from our shop down to the local grocery store, 2 blocks down the street or whatever, and then got whatever my candy or whatever I was getting, I don't remember. And then I walked back to the shop because I kind of forgot that I rode the bike.
Yeah.
And I got back to the shop, and I got so much trouble. And then I was ready to wring my neck, This friggin' custom Paramount was just I just left it sitting there.
Oh my God.
Because you didn't like lock bikes up or anything back in those days.
No.
But I went back, it was still sitting there, of course, luckily.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, bikes were a big part of my childhood. My first bike was a Rally Roadrunner, which was just like a mass-produced kid's bike that had like it didn't really have a crossbar. It had like a piece of bent, sheet metal kind of that said Roadrunner on it. And then if you dropped it down, it was a girl's bike, and you put it up, it was a boy's bike, cool. Right? And then that thing broke off, or I don't know what happened at the top. Yeah, I rode it like hard, dude. Like I was like into it, like jumping little dirt jumps. Like we're talking about a 5 and 6 year old here. And then like I was going to school, and I was dropping the ditches on the way to school. I would just drop off the culvert into the ditch, come out, do the next driveway into the ditch, and I dropped it, and the crossbar hadn't been on, and it just broke in half. It was 2 pieces. I had to carry my bike to school in 2 pieces, and they called my parents. I was crying. I was like 6 years old or whatever. It was like a pretty big deal to break that bike. But that was my original love for like trying to go fast, trying to catch a bit of air.
Oh yeah.
Like it was on from there.
Well, I feel that like BMX was the gateway drug to all, like a lot of action sports.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like it was the thing, and you could go build a jump anywhere. You just go shovel this or shovel that, or put a piece of plywood on a log, and you had a jump. And
yes.
So that was like I spent a lot of my time in my youth riding around building jumps and BMXing, and we had like a bunch of stuff set up, and then of course it turned into dirt bikes for a while.
Yeah, when you got old enough.
Yeah, when I got 16 to from 16 through like 20, somewhere in there, I did the whole motocross thing, and dream was like I wanted to be the next, I wanted to be a pro motocross racer, but
that's incredible.
I destroyed both my knees doing that.
Oh man, of course. The crashes in motocross were like bone breaking, like career ending.
It's one of the gnarliest sports, like to try to become pro. Like it's like
I can't even imagine. Yeah,
it's like, especially now, because now it's like if you are even going to try, the people are doing that. Like families are like mortgaging everything they have just to get their kid through to the races, through the amateur stages of it. It's like insane. It's like. And the physical demands and what those kids go through, and like, almost all of them, had major surgeries and pins and stuff, and so it's just gnarly. And I gave it my best shot, and so then that's like, then when I blew my knee for the second time, that's when I kind of quit, gave up on the dirt bikes, and was like doing the BMX and more BMXing and biking than dirt bikes, and and then I had skied a little bit before hurting my knees, and then that's when I figured out. I saw
The
figured out about
snowboarding.
the snowboarding thing.
What year is the snowboarding thing? Is it like 82, 83?
No, it was, for me it was 79.
Holy
80 was the
shit,
first winter I tried it, and then 81, 82 is when I got my first back hill.
Right.
And so I was, and then by 82 is when 82 was the winter that 82, yeah, right in there is when we got those Burton. It was the Burton Performer Experimental. They were the blue boards with the white graphics, and they had two rubber water ski style bindings instead of just that weird strip in the back.
Yeah.
And the rear tail of the boards, why they call them Performer Experimental, they had that little bit of concave in the tail.
Right.
Which what the idea was for ski resorts where you were riding hardpack, because with that little bit it gave you a bit of ability to go from edge to edge because of the concave, because there wasn't edges, it was just fins.
It's wild.
And so you think about trying to ride like a one of those early performers without the V on the bottom on a packed run. It's like almost it was
completely impossible. Yeah. Really hard.
And so that was the first, that, and then.
Was there BMX magazine, like BMX Plus and BMX Action, in the early 80s?
There was BMX magazines,
because that was kind of my introduction to the imagery idea, to the cool team, to the cool colors.
There's my shot from BMX Plus magazine right there.
Holy shit, that's amazing. Jeff Fulton, the bike length ahead of Brian Griffin in one of the turns on the Monroe track.
Yeah, it was like
that's amazing.
That was like the North American Can-Am Championships, Canadian American Championships. So
that's insane. That's amazing. I wonder. Did
you see my fine fashion sense there with the matching shoes and helmet? And
yeah, look at that. The check. Were those custom checkers? Like where
was when you would go and you could order you custom order your Vans from Vans. Yeah.
So I mean, my love of Vans comes from pre-snowboarding, pre-skateboarding, from this era where you're like, I would look at this and go, okay, you've got. I'd count the number of spokes on your rims. Are those an array of rims? Okay, blue, cool, blue, checkerboard, blue pants, the right pants too, the Fox pants, and then what brand is your number plate? That was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And then grips, like did you have the Oakley grips? Did you have those ODI mushroom grips?
And obviously, whatever brand these were at the time, but the MXL gloves were big because both him and I both have those.
Yeah.
Also, this brand, Max, because those pants are Max.
Oh, I thought they were Fox.
His are Max and those are Max.
Max, I see the Max on here. Yeah.
I don't know who, but yeah, it was like.
Who? Yeah, maybe Fox ripped off Max.
I think they did, or maybe it morphed into.
How cool
Fox
is that?
Max,
right, like so, like what I'm saying. I had that BMX Plus subscription.
Yeah.
And it taught me how to consume a sport. It taught me how to, like, oh man, it gave me like heroes to look up to. Yeah. Events was where things happened.
Yeah.
Brands, you would just be looking at like exactly a photo like that and going, okay, I want, you pick one element and you go, okay, I want those Vans shoes. Yeah. Everybody had the Vans shoes.
Well, that was because for me, the Vans shoes came from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Piccoli. Where he like smacks his head with the Vans.
Totally.
Says, dude, that's my skull.
Yeah.
And they were just cool at the time.
Doug Palladini told me he was friends with Tony and Tony Alva and Stacy Peralta. Mm-hmm. So that's why he wanted to have those shoes in that movie. He fought to have the Vans in the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like what he's done as an actor and an artist and a director and everything. It's like, and to know that he had that vision even back then, is
incredible.
Incredible. Like, and for me, it's like it's one of my iconic movies. It's just there's
totally
good, so funny,
so cancelable. Yeah. There's so much in it. It's just
you do it now.
Not happening now.
But,
never ever are they going to make a movie like that again. Yeah. But I'm fascinated with the idea that we were all brought together by whoever the visionary was at BMX Plus magazine, right? Radical Rick.
Yeah.
Radical Rick actually even transcended BMX to Matt Cummings' board.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like, so, and Ken Aukus talked about it too up in Calgary. He hasn't seen Rad because he was away for the summer when they filmed that just outside of Calgary.
Yeah.
And all his friends are in it. And he was like, I can't bring myself to watch it. I'm like,
one of the best movies ever that you can't
best movie ever.
find.
Yeah. Bill, the main guy, the I forget what his name is even in it. I'm thinking Crew. Oh my God, that's it. You're right.
Yeah.
The actor's name is Bill something, and that's his bread and butter. It looks like he goes around as Crew, signs shirts, sells those Rad shirts still.
That's good.
Yeah, that was a game changer of a movie.
Yeah, it was
as well. My dad brought it home for me from the video store. We recorded it and I watched it on.
So for me, it was when I believe it was Skateboard or whatever changed from Skateboard to Action Now magazine.
Action Now magazine,
and
right?
And then started covering just because there was like skateboarding is dying, so we had to do something to pay the get sponsors to actually put ads in our magazine, right?
Yeah.
And so they spread out, and some people were really bummed out. But for me, it was Action Now that like opened me up to like new music, like because they had their music pages back in the back of that, and had a bunch of stuff in there that was pretty cool. And also there was a couple covers. There was the one cover of Tom Sims. That was like 1981, I believe it is. 1981. It's Tom Sims, and he's just like doing that slash. It's like springtime slushy snow, but it's just like you look at that picture and you're just like, fuck, I want to do that. That looks so awesome. And Thomas just had the ability to make things look so good too. Like he had really good style.
Yeah,
and he had the vision to know what looked good and what didn't look good. As far as like writing style and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's why he had Terry as his guy. That's why Terry got a pro model. Like, because even now when you see the Terry footage from the Donner quarter pipe, he's just insanely good.
Oh yeah,
his arms aren't moving all around.
No.
He's like
those like that one footage of like him doing those McTwists. Those are clean, like clean.
Yeah.
And you think about the board that he's riding at the time, like. Just try and go do a method on that. Go grab one of those boards and try and do a method. Go ride it and try to do a method on it. Then come back and think about what he was doing on those boards. Like, it's just like, it's amazing.
Yeah. He's definitely like a culture shifter in snowboarding, right? Like there was a big push for racing before that.
And so like unassuming, he's almost like shy still, you know what I mean? Like he's like still kind of like super like elusive kind of, somebody paid for him. I think the boardroom brought him up for the 2010 Olympics. They paid to bring up Terry and his Sims board collection that I think he's since sold to somebody, probably Rick Ellison, I think. Somebody has the Terry Kidwell set. Yeah.
But he had them all in the shop. And I remember going down. Think about 2010, right? Where we were as a community, as a culture. Snowboarding hadn't started really looking back at all.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, we were still going. We were still crawling, like clawing forward. At that
it's
point.
Sean White. He's becoming an international superstar. He's like doing a rock band. He's like TMZ worthy. Tony Hawk's already kind of blazed the way as like this like mainstream action sports icon.
Yes,
but we hadn't gone back. Like when I started FNRad was 10 years ago. So that's like 2013, 3 years later, 4 years later, bringing up some of these things, they hadn't been talked about yet.
Yeah.
And Terry Kidwell at the boardroom event, while it was a draw and while a lot of us really appreciated it, I don't think he got the shine that he should have. I don't think that it was like, that should have been, the local newspaper should have been there, and the national news should have been there.
Yes.
Like here we are, this is an Olympic event. We've got the Godfather, the original freestyler that all these freestyle events are coming from.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Terry Kidwell, people would still be doing silly stuff. Jake was right to be like, fuck this freestyle stuff. At that time, it was wacky.
There were. You see some of those videos from like some of those events, and they would just have they'd have a little wedge to nothing, to flat, and they would just it couldn't even land.
Flail. Everybody is just flailing.
Yeah,
and if they're grabbing their boards, then
barely.
They're grabbing them wacky.
Yeah.
Right. It wouldn't be until Roach and Rankwit and Sean Johnson come into the scene, like clean up the freestyle side of it, and like freestyle moment with Jamie Lynn, like all of a sudden it's going from Big Mountain Gnar.
All those guys were avid vert skaters, and so and they knew what, or in their eyes anyway, what was stylish, and so then they were all bringing that hard, like we want skate style, snowboarding, we want skate style. We don't want those dorky like weird nose grabs. We don't want a lean Dracula. We want grab between your feet, like bone it out like a skateboarder does. Like let's make snowboarding look stylish and make it look like something you want to do instead of like some circus act,
Right.
And no offense to anyone, but that's just the way we evolved. I was part of that whole circus act too, I was like,
sure.
As far as, because when we first started riding, I did some skateboarding, but we were still just figuring it out. We didn't have anything to go by. We were just like, oh, let's go jump off this. Let's grab here. And
right.
It's like,
right. Because when you're thinking 82, 83, 84, 85, like this is pre-Bones Brigade. Like skateboarding is still coming out of.
Right in the the early skate parks had died out.
Yeah.
And little bit of backyard ramps, but not much yet. And street skating hadn't even it was not until about 84 or something that street skating, like that whole street ollie and street skating kind of came about, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little dead space for skateboarding a little bit, It was like,
right.
I do remember it was big for us because luckily there was we would drive across the border and come up to Canada because there was still some of the old skate parks left. They hadn't destroyed them.
Sealand, Griffin, and
so that was kind of on our journeys. We would go north, hopefully get across the border and then hit all these different skate parks.
Did you ever get turned away? It was pretty easy to cross the border.
It was pretty super easy, but every once in a while, something would.
Someone would have something.
Or one time maybe a buddy forgot his bong and left his bong in the car. And so, of course, then they turned. And back then it was they was just turning around. It's you just go home.
It was so illegal. It was insane, right? Yeah. It was even having rolling papers. They'd be like, nope, we don't want your kind in our country. Yeah, exactly. It's we're rolling cigarettes. Yeah. They're like, you're not rolling cigarettes. Yeah. That's, it's a pretty incredible time.
Yeah. And so... And then those early, the early, the very first one I ever saw was called Snowboarder with Caballero on the cover.
That's sick.
And that one was him ollieing off some roof, and it was
cool style.
Yeah, so I thought that was that's sick. And then also one of the very, very first ads I ever saw was the Sims Lonnie Toft ad where he's and he's just got his knees. He's just doing a big old. Basically, looks like
kind of the same thing.
It's
kind of the same thing as the cab ad. It's the same board, same basic style, just pointing the other direction.
Yeah, and you're just oh, that looks sick. I was like, that's skate style.
It was immediately apparent when I saw it. I'm way later in the game, but it was we're skateboarding, which is really, really difficult. We've stood up on our toboggans and sleds when we were kids, which is really, really hard too. But if you ever nailed boots to something and you're all of a sudden it's really easy. Yeah. You could see with the bindings, you're like, oh shit, I could get a snowboard and I could do everything I want to do on a skateboard. And
that was a thing
today.
Well, especially living here, like I said, at that time there wasn't much other than if you went up to Canada, there wasn't much for skating. You'd hear about a random ramp here or there, but so then we had this thing we could the mountain was right here, and he had bindings, so you could do all these tricks that you wanted to try on your skateboard, but maybe quite couldn't do, or
Yeah.
it was hard to do. And then now it was way easier on that.
Yeah, it was kind of like, for me, the original trick I couldn't do was a tabletop on a bike.
Yeah.
Like a tabletop is like the method of bikes.
Yeah.
And it was the coolest looking thing that of all things, of everything everywhere in the whole world, someone who could do a tabletop, turn their bars, flatten the bike out on a dirt jump was just, it was like a Bruce Lee double foot karate kick in the air. It was as cool as anything could ever fucking be.
Oh yeah.
And so I had wanted to learn that on a bike, had never learned it. Really hard to fucking do, actually.
Oh, they're hard. Yeah. I had those dialed pretty good back in the day.
Sick,
and we would go in the summer and actually just up here at Lake Samish, and we'd go up to the north end. There's a old Christian camp, and it had this big long dock, and so we'd put a ramp into the dock, and we'd lake jump, and that's where we practiced doing those, because
the original airbag, yeah.
You know, and I was like, we were at the point where we were trying to do those, and I'd be like, I want to get it to where I wanted like an inverted tape to where the wheels were higher.
Totally.
Seat, like that. I was like, that was what he kept trying to do. Like he was working on getting like the sickest inverted table.
That's it.
And then you watch these guys nowadays, like on their mountain bikes at the whip-offs. It's just so ridiculous. Man.
It's gone so insane.
Yeah.
The equipment's gotten incredible, and the people that are doing it are just on a level that's just, you couldn't even imagine it.
Yeah.
Well, when Rad came out, it's got to be 82, 83, 84, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
The backflip thing that he does was kind of cutting edge for freestyle at the time. For freestyle jumping.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because I think that was maybe even before, like that was before Terry Hart had done it on a motorcycle, dirt bike.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So that was big time.
Yeah, it was big time. And now, like, I can remember when they would add a bar spin and a backflip, like, and now they're going off axis, the same as like, I think that all comes back to Peter Line in my mind, like right here in the Pacific Northwest.
And Peter Line, and then the other one was Cardiel.
Oh yeah, Cardiel did a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, he was the other one that was like doing those kind of weird inverted. Before anyone really on a snowboard was doing
front
those
side flippy things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was like a front side.
Not even grabbing in the
almost.
first couple that you see him do it.
Yeah.
But he's just like one of those creatives, hey?
Oh, yeah. Another, like, Cardiel's like, just all hail Cardiel.
I've got some people.
He's such a badass.
He's such a badass. I've got some people that are maybe, like, they're basically saying, oh, yeah, it's Dr. Devin. He's Devin Ryerson's like, just give up. You'll never get Cardiel on a podcast. He's independently wealthy, which is great. He does like, apartment management. Like he's bought a bunch of apartments. Also didn't really care that much for the community that he found in snowboarding compared to skateboarding.
Yeah, sure, very true. Yeah, he didn't. Well, and that was because when that was in that time, like those 90s when there was some people involved in the sport that really weren't that great for the sport. As far as like management. And
I think you go all the way through. I think still even now, today.
It's like, and I understand that because it's like, I walked away. I quit snowboarding for a while just because, I was just like, it gets frustrating when you do something for so long and you put your heart and your soul into it, and then you just see some random, kind of not that cool of a person, like just come in and like get to take over things, and it's like
everything,
be in control, and you're just like, fuck this.
That's why it was so special to meet Don Bostic and Mike Chantry and be like, holy fuck, we did have our guys, and in some ways they kept it real for everybody, which is great. Mm-hmm. Big shout out to both those dudes. But I think my theory on it after 10 years of interviewing people is that that's exactly what would have happened to skateboarding. What happened to snowboarding would be the same to skateboarding if roller skating had a 100-year jump on it, right? Like, so if you could only skateboard at a roller skate park, then there would be some limitations, and there'd be people making decisions
Right.
where it's just not that cool, right? So like,
True.
I think the ski industry, I want to say not out of spite and not out of not liking snowboarding, but more out of just self-protection. Hey, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
So fuck you guys. We're not doing it some different way.
Right.
And when the FIS took over snowboarding for the Olympics, that was kind of the end of any chance that it would be self-directed and that the companies would be snowboard built from, you got Mike and Pete and you've got Jake and you've got Chuck and you've got Tom, but they go to the ski industry and say, like, can you make 1,000 of these for us by November? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got to ship them by October. So can you make these by September? Because we can't make them ourselves.
Right.
And the ski company goes, yeah, of course we can do that. And then, at some point they're like, fuck, they're selling 1,000 of these.
Let's just
why wouldn't we make some to go in that market, compete against them, and tell them, yeah, your boards are going to be $100 more than ours now.
Yeah.
And they're going to be made in the same place.
Yeah.
Like there was like all this road work and this foundation laid by the ski companies. They were literally called ski hills.
Oh yeah.
Like, whereas the skateboarders got to build skate parks and skateboard brands that didn't have to get their stuff made in some other industry.
Sure.
So we were kind of doomed from the start.
Yeah.
That there's going to be some people that are making money decisions that didn't catch the bug like we did.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing. When you catch the bug, you're I did. Like, here I am 35 years later. I'm fucking fucked. I can't save money because if I got $5,000 in my bank account, I'm going Heli, which is 3 days of the same thing I do every day. And every time I come down here, it's like I'm screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. Yeah. It's an addiction.
Yeah. 100%.
But I think it's a much safer addiction than a lot of them that are out there. So that's a good thing.
Dude, I am thankful.
I mean, because I could probably not have spent all the money I've spent in my life on snowboarding and stuff, but then I wouldn't have all these friends and memories and all the things that I've gotten through snowboarding. And it's like, so I'm very happy with my life as far as those kind of decisions, and as far as like choosing snowboarding, like instead of like maybe like I don't know, not snowboarding and having some like
fishing
miserable career that I'm stuck behind a desk every day, and I'm super
doctor.
rich, but
Dr.
super rich,
Fulton,
but
right?
no,
with your lake house at Samish, and but you got nothing better to do but sit there and drink a beer because that's the only thing you've got going on.
Yeah,
because you're busy at work all the time with doctoring stuff. Yeah, I think.
Well, and I mean, and it's just like for anyone, it's like if that's your passion and you love doing that, then great.
Good. Then you're in the right place.
In the right place.
That's it.
But for me, it was like, I just never could really make up my mind where my right place was. The only place that felt right was when I was up in the mountains in the powder. I felt good. I felt like I was there and where I was supposed to be.
Big lessons too. Like even all the way back to BMX days, like that I could only, my financial situation with my family was like, for Christmas one year, I think I got Diacomp brake levers. That was it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and my dad's like, you could buy a whole bike for how much we're paying for these two little things that doesn't change your bike in any way. This is what, and that's how I feel with my kid now. I give him money. A few years ago, he buys like video game, like, outfits for his character. I'm like, you're not getting anything. That's not, I can't believe you fucking did that. But so that lesson of like, you're like, damn, if my family was rich, I would have a full Haro outfit and a Haro bike and everything would match, and I'd put Haro on my shoes and it would, but then you know what you would be? You would be a poser.
Yeah.
Because you aren't piecing together something out of this scarcity.
Well,
wanting
you'd be
to do
spending
it.
so much time just keeping that stuff clean and
polishing
instead of actually riding it and using it.
Right. Yeah. And that was the thing, was that actually the thing that I fell in love with more than the image, even though I desperately wanted to have, like a brushy trout or something, or like Craig's yellow pants.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted that stuff so bad. The guys who matched, they just, when you would start riding with someone that had head to toe Burton stuff that wasn't one of their team riders.
They were usually in your rearview mirror.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely a hard time keeping up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's crazy. So those
because
lessons, you can only learn
like,
that there.
Especially in those times in the 90s, like getting by, you were like saving up so you get enough money for your pass and all that. So like if you could afford that stuff, you were like any free time you were riding.
Yeah.
Whereas compared to something like that, they probably had more money. They were like, oh, I'm just gonna go buy. So they probably weren't as committed because they just like they had a little more, they had a little more freedom financially, I think, or something. So it wasn't as dire to them. It was like when when we went, it was like, fuck, I want to go get my money's worth,
Yeah, totally. I mean? Yeah. Well, it's also the difference in falling in love with the aesthetic and how it looks.
Yes.
And falling in love with the actual thing.
Right.
And because I'll tell you right now, that board right there that's in the corner, it's a GNU anti-gravity or something with a hole in the nose. The thing's probably a ironing board. It's got a lot of camber still. It's just not up to today's standards, but I could have more fun on that.
Well, that one I don't think you'd have that much fun on. That thing
is it busted?
Gnarly. No, it's just gnarly. It was that was one of two made. It's a 214, and that was made for.
It's a 214. It's actually on the ground. It's not up on something.
No, it's on the ground. And it's it was made for Carter Turk for like the one and only real downhill snowboard race they ever had. It was I think it was 87 in Aspen Highlands at the Buttermilk, and it was the women's FIS. They ran it on the women's FIS downhill course.
So the big mountain slalom course.
Like the real deal downhill course.
Yeah.
And but so many people, like, they were just hauling bodies away from that race. So they figured the boards and the technology weren't
we weren't there yet.
But that board was one. They made that one for Carter, and then they made one for Dano. And so here's a funny little side story. Carter already had his, and we were out there at Aspen Highlands hanging out, waiting, doing all the events. And Dan's board was supposed to be showing up. And he kept talking about my 214. Wait, you guys see my 214, blah, 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 And so then we were all staying in the same hotel or motel or whatever it was. And we got back from the hill early, and the board box was there. And I remember I was with Palmer. And Palmer had like just a shopping bag full of sim stickers. So he carefully cut open the box, slid his board out, and covered it tip to tail with sim stickers, and then just slipped it back in the box, taped it up, and then put it in front of his door. And so then, like, he's like, he gets off the hill, and he's like, dude, my board, gotta check out my 214. He's just so proud, just all excited. And he pulls it out of the box, and it's just like, he's just like, you fuckers. Like, it was so good.
It's amazing.
So it was only two of those made, and here, I'll show you real quick.
Yeah, please. Yeah, it's got like
camber from the very
a full inch of camber in the middle.
Yeah, and it runs tip. Like,
and he's standing on it with most of his weight to put it down. It's just like it's cambered to the max.
Yeah,
somebody like Carter to even be able to ride. And you know what? I stand by my point. I could still have more fun on that in my life somewhere than doing most other things.
That's very true. But yeah, so that thing's quite the monster. It
is a monster, dude. So Pete, probably Mike or Pete would have been working on that.
That was it. Yeah, that was definitely Pete or Mike, and probably Mike. And I think that was like back when I was still out of their garage even.
Yeah, I heard Mike.
Maybe it was the very first the little Ballard shop down there.
Rad.
Or it was like he went down. It was down off. You could go like get off on 45th Street in Seattle, and then go down right down to the water right down there. And that was their first little shop right down there.
Yeah, I remember Mike telling me that he just had the idea in his mind. He's like, I think side cuts, they were a thing in skiing, but they were like 14 meters, 11 meters. Like the smallest one was like 11 meters. And he just went, well, what would like a 10 or a 9 or an 8 meter or 7, whatever.
Yeah.
And he just measured them out with a piece of string and he drew them out. And when he got to like a 160 with an 8 meter side cut, which is basically
what people
a modern
standard,
board right now.
The standard, yeah.
But like to think that he, you know, whether it was invented somewhere else simultaneously, doesn't matter. That he came up with the geometry out of his brain and mechanically drew that shit is like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's like incredible. There's like one guy who figured out 8 meter 160.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden I'm sure for a year or two after that, they're carving everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
While everybody else is still fishtailing.
Right.
Right.
Well, the Sims boards at that time, the 1500 FE had some side cut to it, but it wasn't just. It was
a blended though, right? Like there was like blended. A kind of weird bulbous nose thing, right, and then a tight little side cut from like the middle, from behind your back foot to like the tail or something.
Correct. Just about the front of your front. Yeah.
Okay, so it's
back of your front foot to the tail. It was about where the side cut was, and then it did the almost reverse side cut up the nose.
I've seen Tom's drawings on some of his early prototypes where like he obviously used a protractor and like a meter stick, and he drew all sorts of vectors and like he was working hard on that shit. He was like a surfboard shaper.
Well, but his Olson's came from like the aerospace ski industry kind of technology, that kind of brain thing, and whereas Tom's was more from the surf end of it and more hydrodynamics versus like actual ski side cut, and that, like he was thinking more of like how surfboards work in the water kind of deal.
Yeah, I've heard people say that there were arguments about taking the fins off, like where people were like, you take the fins off, you won't be able to control the fucking thing.
Well, no, that was the first bank slalom. We had done that was when we were doing the metal edges. Like Tom would build his boards, send them up to the bike factory.
Yeah.
They would install the metal edges, right?
Yeah.
So at the first bank slalom, Craig and I had already figured out to like we got rid of the side fins.
Yeah.
Right? And we just had the center fin in, but we had raised it, so it was only sticking down like maybe barely eighth of an inch, and that was just to like on the hard packs
for tracking.
To keep going straight. And so at that first bank slalom race, we showed Tom like, hey, we got rid of our side fins, and he was still like, oh no, you got to keep the side fins.
Was he kind of mad about it? Was he like, don't take those fucking
No, but he just had his like his.
He's like, it's never gonna work.
Yeah, well, his thoughts of like, no, this is not gonna work.
And then he won
him,
too.
We actually just went and rode with him.
Yeah,
It's like, look, now you can, and it was, you weren't carving like the libs text, but you weren't like at that point you could slide into your turn. You could slide into your turns and turn.
Find a line
compared to like with a fin
on there. Really psycho,
you were
right?
Always kind of hooking a little bit. You know what I mean? Like
because
as soon as you'd go, and then that fin would catch and it would hook a little bit.
So you'd either be fighting against the fin this way or following it in a straight line, whatever way it went.
Correct.
Yeah,
Whereas
when it engaged.
And so once we got rid of those, it was like now it was more. Then it was more like ski. Now instead of like surf turning or skateboard turning, now we're doing more kind of ski style where we're using that edge.
Yeah, I think people told Terry too, like the round tail idea. They're like, you're gonna be spinning around in circles. It's not gonna be directionally stable or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, well, I'd like to try it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he's riding, like that early Sims video where he's doing all the tail presses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And ollies, he's popping. All of a sudden he's got pop off that tail.
And also there's a shot, I don't know if it's in that one, but one of those other videos, and Keith Kimmel drops in fakie, does that fakie ollie on the quarter pipe, and you're just like that was when I was like, oh, there's a whole, I could just open up a whole new door, And then, so everybody in the world owes Terry Kidwell some money because he definitely that that definitely changed, or was one of the, direction changers in snowboarding for sure. Because
100%.
like if we all had swallowtails still, I mean, that's what kind of was the big thing before his roundtail. I mean, no one would even be thinking about going backwards,
It'd still be just racing, pencil lines. The boards would be 220 centimeters long.
We'd all be wearing ski racing pants.
Yeah, we'd all have ski boots and speed suits. It's incredible, yeah. Yeah, and like you say, Terry's pretty shy about it. He's pretty humble.
Very humble.
I'm sure he's not going around Tahoe saying, "Hey, do you know I invented freestyle?"
No, not at all.
No, he's just Terry.
Yeah. Very, very humble. And,
very cool, dude.
But just a rad dude all the way around.
Were you on what team was he on with Mervyn? It was Hazmat, right?
Hazmat, yes.
Were you on that as well?
I was riding for GNU at that time.
Yeah, you were straight up GNU.
Yeah, just straight up GNU.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was right after there was the whole LibTech GNU thing where they'd lost their GNU light. They gave up on GNU, gave it to Windline, whoever, did the LibTech thing.
Wild.
And then once they bought GNU back, they were like, hey, we want to build this brand. And so that's when they started just hooking me up with boards, and then ended up getting on the team.
Yeah, and then at that point, they'd made the decision with LibTech that they weren't going to buy ads. They weren't going to do print stuff.
Yeah.
But when GNU came on, they're like, let's test the waters with GNU. And then you guys were doing the craziest ads.
Yeah.
Like the So Stroft ad with the cats, the kittens.
Yeah. Or the ad of like Bass is the best snowboarder in the world.
Best snowboarder in the world.
Dorky picture, they did a lot of. I mean, I love those guys for the fact that they always kept it. They were just like, it's just snowboarding, guys. It's not like we're rocket scientists or anything. It's just snowboarding. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun. Let's not get too serious. Just like in those early days, I loved it. Like there was some I'm pretty sure it was Jake or I'm pretty sure it was Jake was like, we can't be like skateboarding. We don't want skulls and all these gnarly graphics on our boards, And so what did Mike do? He went out and put out the board with the full skeleton, like the whole top sheet is a
amazing
skeleton,
Amazing.
And it's just funny. He's just like, oh yeah, well let me just show you what.
Yeah, those boards were so groundbreaking too. Yeah. Thin noses, lightweight, cap construction.
Yeah.
Deep side cut, crispy, side cut. Like and torsion wrap.
They were like Ferraris. They performed really well. They broke down pretty fast.
Yeah.
And they were so light that sometimes they were a little. You could get a little, like some of the choppy stuff. You could feel the chop with them. But they were at the time. They were so ahead of their
grippy
so
edge grip. Yeah, Jamie Lynn off the toes style coming out of just the way those boards rode so gnarly.
I loved them. Like I had, even in here, even like their big boards were like amazing. Oh, there's one of those GNSs right there.
That's you on a GNS?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that photo.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then me and Farmer.
Big Crail. Oh yeah, you and Farmer. Is that at Baker?
Yeah. With that.
Where is that shot? Is that below the half pipe there?
No, that is like, when you get off chair 1 or chair 6 and you're heading back down the main face under chair 6.
Yes.
This would be like where the chair is there. It's off just kind of under and off to the right.
Sick.
Like right of the bub, what they call hidden wave and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In that zone right there.
I mean, if there's one thing that says to me, it's like you guys are having fun.
Oh yeah.
What was your first trip to Alaska like?
The first one, one of the first ones, I just went up and did the King of the Hill event. Hung out and got to do
Richie Fowler and Jay Liska, those guys.
There.
Yeah.
It was like no guides. It was poker chips. You buy a $35 or a $50 poker chip and give it to the pilot, and then take you to different spots. Yeah, it was like cheap power riding all day long. And that's the most adrenaline I've had flow through my body ever in a day, because I was flying with fucking Chet, who's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
like just flying in a helicopter was
legend.
It was was a trip in itself, because he would fly you anywhere you even think about. And then, and then we were doing all these first ascents that, and basically by ourselves, he would just fly over and he'd be like, there's the LZ. I'm taking you up there. You get there. I'll pick you up. And that was it.
Was it pretty straightforward? Are you looking at like everything's above, like everything's alpine? There's no trees.
No
and you're
trees.
Just like you could kind of see the helicopter for where you drop, kind of thing. When he goes down.
He would fly away and go to the next, like go pick somebody else.
Oh, right, because he's running multiples.
So that was the other tricky part. Here we are, like, fucking miles out in the middle of nowhere, right? And he drops you off on this peak, and then you just watch the helicopter fly away, and you're like,
you don't have a guide.
Fuck.
You're
no
not
guide,
with a
nothing.
partner.
We're just like, fuck, if something doesn't work out or he doesn't come back, we're fucked.
So the only guy with a backpack is the photographer.
No, we had backpacks.
Oh, you guys had backpacks.
We had our backpacks.
Beacons and shovels, all that shit.
Yeah, that stuff. But
it had already happened.
Like maybe a snack bar and some water and stuff. But nothing. I'm not prepared for overnight or anything like that kind of deal.
Right.
But yeah, so and then we'd get dropped off and there'd be the LZ and we had to make it to that spot to get picked up again. And first time when we first season or whatever, we'd just like we'd have them do we'd like, oh, this is the face we want to ride, like, can you circle back and do a couple circles and try to figure out a couple features, and be like, okay, look for that feature, this feature. No, you don't want to go this way because we don't want to go over there. There's a 2,000-foot cliff over there.
Oh my god!
And but then by the next season we figured out, I can't remember who thought of it, but we figured out bringing a Polaroid camera.
Yeah. And
then you just snap a shot of it. And then when you get up top, you could pull out your little picture of the face and be like, okay, and like, oh, a wave down there or this knoll here, So you'd have a couple features on the picture.
This is that tree or this is that cliff.
And so then you'd have some sort of a little bit of a guide to figure out where you were going, And then, of course, as popularity grew and seasons came along, then they started to make, then you started having to have a guide and that kind of stuff.
Of course.
But back then, there was no, it was just, we were on our own.
Like, so this first Alaska trip, guesstimate a number of runs. Like, would you be doing 10 runs a day for 5 days or something? Or
and also it was real weather dependent. So there was times like you'd be hang out in a friggin' hotel for a week waiting, trying to wait for the window to break, So, and then one of the first trips when I went up there, we met up with the Liska, Scott and Jay Liska, that whole Liska family, and they had a friend who was an American Airlines pilot who had his own private little bubble helicopter.
Oh,
like
wow.
MASH style, you know?
Yeah.
And so we went out to Hatcher's Pass, which is right there, and we did some heli runs out there at Hatcher's Pass, and that was a trip because it was like the pilot sat in the center, and then there was 2 seats in the bubble, and that was it.
Wow.
It was this little tiny, MASH copter.
And being from Baker, were there things in Alaska that scared the shit out of you, or were you kind of like, I can handle this?
There's stuff there. I mean, Alaska's got. I mean, you can get as gnarly as you want there. There's stuff there that I could have got in over my head easily. But also, I think that Baker was a good training ground because there's that kind of stuff. It's just much shorter. Like Alaska, it's the same thing, but it's 3 times longer. So
totally.
You get in situations, you're going to be working at it for a while in Alaska compared to Baker. Like there's a lot of steep, gnarly stuff, but most of it's relatively short.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. I was like, oh shit, like you can have this train, but for such a much more extended runs, and it was pretty amazing.
That's dope.
I love Alaska. I can't wait to go back. It's like,
when's the last time you were there?
Oh, it was late 90s.
Yeah. 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So, like, while that was happening, did you know it was the gravy train, or were you just kind of in it and that's what was happening?
I was like, I knew that was it. I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, and luckily at that time, that was when like Marvin and those guys, they were like, we don't really want you to. We're not into competition. You don't have to compete.
I love that.
Just go get. Just go. Do what you do. Just go snowboard, and if you get some film footage or some coverage, then we'll
give you some money.
But it's money to just go ride, and and they saw it early on that they knew that like that free riding is the, it is like Craig said, it's a quote that Craig said, and I still stick by it. It's like free riding is the driving force behind snowboarding. It's like, it's what everyone like, it's just like the natural selection tour. It's like that to me, you watch that and it's like, that is what snowboarding, like, that's what snowboarding is, it's like, that's great that there's, the Olympics and the half pipe and all that, but that's gotten to such a point that it's such a specialist thing that like your average person that watches it, there's no way you or I could do those kind of things,
Yeah, the
Whereas,
built
like,
environment's
free riding,
crazy.
You look at that stuff and you're like, I want to go ride that. I want to try that. I watched some kid throwing a 16, 20 and a half pipe 25 feet out. I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want anything to do with that. I want to walk, like
Totally.
Whereas like the powder stuff, it's like you look at that and you're like, oh, that looks fun. I want to do it.
I want to do that so bad.
And I understand the whole competition part and younger kids that want to do that and compete and like it's great. Like Sean, like he had a great career doing that, and he was very driven and he focused and knew what he wanted, and he achieved it. And like, and if that's what you want to do, that's great. I mean, that's what's cool about snowboarding is there's no one telling you have to do this or you have to do that. It's like whatever you choose to do is what you can do.
Yeah. Remember when Sean went to Alaska with Farmer and Terrier? And it was kind of his first sort of backcountry. I mean, I think he'd ridden
powder.
Yeah,
there's some other shots of riding powder before that, but that was just real.
And then Farmer hitting a kicker. He's like, "Oh, we didn't usually build kickers. We usually just like did a little pat down."
Yeah,
it was an interesting. I got to go back and watch that movie. I remember being enamored by it. Yeah. And like they're flying around with Terrier and they just, oh yeah, nobody's ever done that before. You want to do that?
Yeah.
And he like pins it down some huge Alaska face.
Yeah.
Super rad. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the built environment, like when you're building a jump and then you're trying to tack on another 180 to something that's already been done, a lot of people love that stuff. Good. And the progression happens there.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
100%.
Progression happens in a half pipe, airbags, and on trampolines and dry slopes all over the world.
It's amazing what 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we saw in a video game and you're just like, why are you guys even doing that? That's impossible, And now the kids are doing it.
Right.
It's funny how
it's wild.
How far it's evolved like that, like when I remember just like when the first 900 was done on a snowboard, and we're just like, oh my God, like, no, that's it, kind of deal,
Can't go 1080, come on. Yeah. And now we're at triple 1440s or 1660s or something.
Something crazy like that. Like,
which I kind of knew in the beginning from the like Quebec Air Force and the like freestyle skiing when I was a kid. There was something completely not exciting about it. That straight up flipping over, spinning around, and then landing, and they would slap their back against the landing. You know what I mean? Like the big impact on the landing. I can remember thinking, one day snowboarding will get to where it's doing this, but
it's going to be better.
But it'll be way better than what they're doing for sure. But also, somewhere along the way, it stopped being exciting to me.
Right.
Like that wasn't the thing that was exciting.
Yeah.
What was exciting was like somebody doing something big of consequence, but like also looking like Jerry Lopez, just cool as a cucumber in the air. Like, so you do a big backside 180 like Devin Walsh in 1999 or whatever. That's as good as any quad flip that's going on, trying to tack on another thing for never been done.
Yeah.
To me anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. The snowboarding has never gotten any worse. It's never gotten any better. It's the best. It's always been the best.
Yeah.
To actually snowboard. Yeah. Watching snowboarding's gotten worse for me.
Yeah.
And over time. It used to be inspiring. It's like, let's go. Oh, wow, look at that. whoa, look at where they went or whatever. Oh my God, that's our home mountain. Like, we should build up that thing that what a cool way to do it. And now it's just like, you're snowboarding.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, something will catch my eye and I'll be like, oh, that was really, really filmed well.
Yeah.
Executed well. Cool.
Yeah. For me, I think it's the drone has helped out a little bit. Now, like there's been a couple shots, like there was a video from last season or whatever in the Baker Film Festival ones, and someone did a couple of drone shots of some descents out on the arm. And it just, from that angle, it was an angle I hadn't seen before, and it was like, well, that looks pretty cool, you know. So it just, a couple
Beautiful.
little things, you know,
cool.
just changed it a little bit as far as, you know, just perspective-wise.
Well, also what you just said, at the film festival, at the Baker, that's at the Bellingham Theater, right?
Yeah.
Like, seeing it in a theater the way that it's supposed to be presented at a premiere with a bunch of people before the season starts in that amazing energy
It's fun.
is such a difference than seeing some, like, surprisingly amazing clip on your phone.
Oh, true,
right?
true.
Because
Very true.
there is some part of, like, scrolling on my phone that I could see the raddest shit ever, but then I might see a baby get hit in the face with a tortilla and fall down some stairs and not be hurt. That is equally attention grabbing to me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like it's like there's something diminished about seeing a clip on my phone that it's like, even though that person was snowboarding when they did that clip, because it's coming to me from my phone, that's not really snowboarding. Right. That's just like brain tickle.
Yeah, it's just like more. Just that fodder.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for me, it's like Pitbull videos that always show up.
Is that what you get? You get the Pitbull videos?
A lot of Pitbull videos.
Yeah. I've had a reversal this year. I used to watch people that got pulled over by cops, outsmarting the cops. And now I'm watching cartoons of cops dealing with drunk people. And then eventually at the end, they just, you hear the door slam on the thing. There's so many people out there that are like, you have no idea who I am. Yeah. You're in so much trouble, officer. And you're just like, oh, this is hilarious. Oh, but funny. It feels horrible at the end. That's the thing. Every time I watch it at the end, I'm like, oh, it's 2 a.m.
I just wasted.
I told myself I wasn't going to do this, and then I did it. It's the worst. It's the worst. That's where snowboarding to me is like the most important through any relationship I've had, including having kids. Like at some point, if it snowed and then the sun is going to break and I have an opportunity to go before anyone else, I'm going to get fresh tracks in the sun. I don't think there's anything that could come up that's more important than that. I mean, I would miss it for like a kid's Christmas pageant or something, of course. But even if it was my kid's birthday, which they're both in the summer, luckily, or if it was Christmas and we're all getting together, we're just getting together an hour later.
We'll see you this evening.
I'm going to get that thing. Oh, yeah. That's like it's more important than scrolling. Yeah. The day I miss it because I was scrolling the night before, then I got to throw my phone in the garbage. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
It's the thing. It's that.
Yeah. Well, because it's that time. It's because as soon as you get up there and you strap your board on, you are living in the moment. I mean, it's just the way it is. And
there's life or death situations going on all around you.
Yeah. And so you for me, it's just like that's what life's about. Is like being. If you could do that all the time, just live in the moment all the time. You can't, but I mean, if you could,
you get burned the hell out. I think that would just or stressed out or something.
But so it's good that that's one of the things I love about it. You just get up there and get away from it all.
One of the things I love about it that I've been able to capitalize on with the podcast is that I get to talk to you guys, right? Like I get to, and then on a rare occasion I get to ride with you guys. Like I can think of a day at Baker, it might have even been one of the first days of the season. You, Dano, Tex, and we're riding lines that I've never seen before, that I never went back to either, because it's like I can't even go there by myself. There's some consequences in some of those things, and I wouldn't want to blow out those spots. You know, at the end of like the powder panic, then there's a couple of places that have like, just really, I'm goofy. So like just a beautiful deep backside turn where you're just like, holy shit, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And Jamie was saying that, and I don't want to misquote him. I'm not even quoting him. I'm just going to say, he said, as a group, your group, we're talking Craig, Carter, Dano, you, and then you've mentioned Swanee, a couple of other guys. It wasn't like you all carpooled up in the same car and made sure that you waited for each other and you all got piled in the same van and arrived in the parking lot at the same time. It was like a race. You guys were kind of independently racing to these features, like he talked about the turn over the waterfall in the chute under chair one. Like whoever got that won that day, kind of thing. Right?
That was kind of it got to that point where it was like drag race for powder. And then it's funny because that's when we first started strapping our back foots in because the ramps were so gnarly at Baker. But then once the chairlifts changed, at that point the popularity had grown. So then we were like, fuck, I'm going to keep strapping in because it gave me that 30, maybe even 10-second advantage over whoever had to stop and strap their back foot in. And also, especially off chair one, like just that extra little bit of momentum from riding the chair instead of through that little flat area, you had just that much more momentum to carry you through the flats to get to the goods, you know. And so that's why we kept, and then it was racing and like, and there was time, first one down, fucking first one to the chair, like you're all behind me.
Right.
Always, it was like kind of a sense of like, a little bit of pride. I just fucking beat you all down.
The one time I talked to Craig on the chairlift, it was when 5 and 6 were still going. I asked him at the end, like, can we ride with you? And he said, sure, if you can keep up. And then he was just gone. Like, so far gone. Like, I was like, we can ride with Craig if we catch him. And my friends had been on the chair behind. He was already halfway down the hill by the time we were strapping in. So I was like, okay, well, let's keep trying. Let's see if we can, if we could close that gap by just bombing. And there was no possible way. There's no way. He rode fast. And he was just solo. He was unbelievable. I mean, that was kind of the hallmark of all you guys, right? Riding super fast. That was kind of the deal. Like, that was kind of our deal, was like, fucking be the first one down to the bottom, like, hit a couple good drops on the way, but just get in there and get it before someone else did, for sure. What are some of your favorite moments at Baker? Like, are they captured on film or camera, or are they moments that just live in your head from days that you were just
moments
riding?
In my head mainly. I mean, there's so many, but there's some that stand out. Like, there was like, as in the last few years, there was the one I called the Miracle Wednesday, and it was like it was back when I was living with Tex, and we were at the point where it was still it was at this point it was kind of a hustle. You had to get up there, get after it to get it because it could track out fast, and so we were up early and heading up, and I'd called the report, and it was like, what was it? It was 22 degrees and 18 inches of new, and I was like, oh fuck, let's go, and I had to drop a board off at a friend's house here, and so we took off from Texas, rallying up about 6:30 in the morning. We're rallying, and we stopped by my buddy's house, and I was like, here's that board, and he's like, where are you guys going? They shut the highway down, blah blah blah, because of the winds or something, and I was like, really? I just called the report, and they said they were open. And he was like, well, that's what they just said to me. And I was like, get back in the car and text. And I was like, well, what do you think? I go, fuck, if we drive up to where the road's closed, we'll be first in line for when the road opens. He's like, yeah. So we go, okay, let's take off. We drive up, and we drive all the way, and we get to the lodge. And they're like, oh, highway's closed, but you can't drive down because they're gonna be like taking out some trees or doing something. But you guys can have free breakfast since you're stuck here at the lodge, So we had breakfast, and we're sitting there, and we're like, well, fuck, we're stuck here. Let's just go do road shot. We'll just go do road shots. So we're like, oh yeah, let's go. Got a few of us, and we're walking out to the car to go do road shots, and the girl in the ticket booth slides the window up and says, "Hey, you guys, don't leave. They're gonna open up chair 7 and chair 7 and 5 or whatever it is." I'm like, no way.
Wow.
So there was literally, so they opened up the chairs, ran the chairs for us. There was literally 22 cars in the parking lot, including employees.
Oh, wow.
And so they ran the chairs till like 1 o'clock or 1:30 like that. And it was the first time in years that I went down gobbles right under chair 5, laid a track down, rode back up, and then laid a track right next to my track.
Oh, wow.
You know, like what? And so it was just
So sweet.
light, deep, nobody there. And then about 1:30, they're like, "All right, you guys are done. You've had your fun, you know, type deal." And so we're all sitting in the lodge, and Chris Lay, the guy that did this year's graphic, he was bartending at the time, and he's like, "You guys got free breakfast. You got to ride today. We're not serving any beer. You guys, you need to go." And we're all sitting around there, and, we have just had the greatest day of our life. So we're all just like, beer, 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 beer. And all of us just pounding the table, and he's like, "All right, I give you all a beer. Will you get out of here?" So we got free breakfast, got to ride POW all day, and then got a free beer at the end of the day.
That's insane.
So it was, those
That's a perfect
one of
day.
those ones, yeah.
It's a perfect day.
Yeah, it was a really good one. But,
So rad.
Then there was a couple seasons back where it was a Saturday, and it was a really good day, and so I went up anyway. I was like, I'll just deal with the crowds, ride single, get single line, pound out my fronts, get out of there by 11, right? I get up there, and I'm doing lap after lap on chair 6, and I'm whipping back up to chair 6, and there's nobody there. Like, I'm getting on the chair by myself, and I'm just like, is this Saturday? What's going on? Like, I make a mistake and think it was Saturday, And so I rode till about 1:30, and I was worn out.
Bagged.
Just bagged. And I go up to the tap room, and the tap room getting my beer, and I'm like, well, this is the strangest day ever. And they're like, "Oh, didn't you hear? Like a bus, one of the like kids' buses had caught on fire on the way up to the mountain. It caught on fire, and so it blocked the road, and nobody could get up there till like afternoon."
Amazing. So you just had the whole place.
So I had the place basically to myself. There was just a handful of people up there riding.
That's so incredible.
So that was another one of those epic days.
Yeah, I had one of those at Cypress where it was a food truck jackknifed across the road, and we rode. It was me and my buddy Pete. We're both new dads, so we had kids. So you can't stay the whole day. We would have just stayed the whole day. It wasn't crazy deep, but it was sunny. It was a Bluebird POW day.
Yeah.
Where the POW panic, after a few laps, you realize something is up. There's no cars in the parking lot.
Yeah, you're like, what's going on?
Nobody on the hill. Like, what is this? And then on the way down, we were waving to everybody. And if they waved back, we gave them the finger. We were just being dickheads. And oh my God, they'd been sitting in their cars for so long that if they could have jumped out and stopped us, they would have pulled us from the car and killed us. Yeah, that was a wild day. Yeah. It's weird when something like that happens where you find yourself kind of like the old days. The old days, it wasn't such a POW panic.
No, it wasn't at all. Like the early days, especially at Baker, the early days, it was more of a, you're farming. You had a routine. You'd be like, okay, we're going to go do this section. When we track that all out, then we're going to go over, then we'll go over to that side and track that out over there. It was like, we had a little system to it. And you'd farm POW all day long. I
remember waiting for other people to put in either the boot pack up hemispheres or the traverse out onto the elbow. Someone else can do that because it's hard fucking work. And if you get stuck.
Well, not only that, but you also, especially those two, you wanted someone else because the track out at the bottom, if there wasn't a good track out of the bottom, you were slogging.
You were post-holing the whole way out. That's right. I
did that a couple times. Where one time I was pretty freaked out about it because I was like armpit deep POW, swallowing out of there, just felt like such a sitting duck. It was like, if something happens right now, I'm not going to get out of it. I'm fucked, I can't move fast.
Yeah, we were moving so slowly through Rumble Canyon.
The Rumble Gully there. Yeah,
I guess that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
but there's like a little rock,
little section at the bottom is.
Oof. And we were just going so slow because it had all slid, and then it was like, oh yeah, there's nothing feels worse than that.
Yeah, you
just
like
going through that bottom part. Yeah. Just like, yeah. So. We saw someone fly off the highway. No, spin around. Like they did a 720 in their car on the highway on the way out. Oh. And people were I think we counted 24 cars in the ditch. Yeah. And then we got there. So this is the opposite of your story. The worst story for us is getting there at 9:45 on a POW day, and you blew it. Yeah. Everything's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of Baker now. Like it goes so fast now. Yeah. And I just accept it. It's just a fact. I mean, it's like, winter sports are getting more popular, and this mountain's well known now. It's like a mecca for people to come to. And so I get it, so
it's covered in customers. So there's people paying.
I just been riding a lot more lower angle stuff and going, like, if the crowds are all rushing over to chair 6, then I'll go over to chair 8. I don't have to ride the gnarliest terrain anymore to have fun. Yeah. It's like, I did used to be, there was a time when I was like that. Like I wanted to go, slay the gnarly shit and
flying the wall.
But yeah, all that. But now it's like, if I'm just out there and I get a good little pow slash somewhere, I'm happy.
Yeah. Lowered expectations.
Yeah. So, and I think one of the other good days for me was this last winter at Donner at the retros, man.
Oh, dude,
that was so much fun. Just like that one little chair back there, low angle POW. Just that was super fun.
Riding fast with bass. Like I remember, I have it on my phone somewhere. I'll have to pull it out and put it up. Like, just the way you guys were riding. And the fact there was us and maybe one other group back there, and the other group was 2 or 3 people. Yeah. And we were 10 or 12 guys. Yeah. And in that group were some heavy hitters, Palmer and Tom Shea. And
it was so much fun.
Clum and Down.
Yeah, that was right. I was super stoked to get to hook up with Scott Downey and Scott Clum, do some laps with them. It'd been years.
Evan too. I think Evan was riding with us. I can't remember.
Yeah, Evan was too. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Jesus, what a star-studded, and also to be in the place where it kind of all started, like the stuff that we do, right? Yeah. Like the freestyle, and then Big Mountain started. I think Big Mountain stuff started here.
This was I firmly believe that. Big Mountain Freeride was born at Baker because they were allowing us to ride terrain here before any other, like the resorts that were open at the time just didn't have that kind of terrain available. You know? And the resorts that did have that kind of terrain weren't allowing snowboarding. Right. So that was the big thing.
Yeah, like when Jamie goes down to KT22 at Palisades with the hatchets or with Fall Line, whoever it was that he's... Like, nobody had ridden it that way at that time. You know what? There's probably some people from Tahoe going, shut up. We were crushing it. Yeah. But, like, you bring that Big Mountain freestyle from Baker. Yeah. Like, and in the canyon, all those side hits and everything, the shoots into them. It's like this rad combo. Yeah, it's the biggest skate park in the world. Yeah,
lucky that way. I mean, we didn't realize how lucky we had it early on. Until I started traveling around and seeing other resorts and be like, oh,
it's wild. Yeah, it's wild when you go to somewhere that's got like a great reputation and you're like, oh.
And I mean, the other spot that it's not as well known and maybe it's kind of expensive, but Jackson Hole is a place that's bred some really strong riders because of the same deal, like steep, gnarly terrain that you have to ride there. You have to be a strong rider just to ride there. And that's kind of the way the Baker is too. Like Baker's the same way. Like to ride here and ride here a lot, it forces you to become a strong rider because of the conditions and the steepness and everything. Like you can't just go take it easy. You gotta,
I'm embarrassed to say we rode chair 4 a lot. That just the cat track. We were like side hit guys.
Well, that there was a time when that was super fun. That was kind of the fun thing. And at that time, parks and pipes and stuff were popular, and Baker didn't have. All we had was the side hits, basically.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Other than going riding like the other train. But,
yeah, because you could do side hit, road drop, and you're at the chair again. It was it was
fun.
That was and there were little hits all over the place on the way into it too.
Yeah.
But I mean, now to think that we spent days and days and days coming up here just riding that, you know what I mean? Probably rode that on POW days too, like where we're just like, all right, fresh landings on our chair 4 run.
Some decent transition. Nice.
We can set the track. All right, we could double this up. This is amazing. Yeah. And then, did you see that off the road? I must have gone 20 feet or whatever. Yeah. Meanwhile, people are bagging, right under 5.
Yeah.
One of the best chair access runs in the world.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on, man. Well, is there anything you want to hit? Let's talk Moonchild, because
sure.
You've been how do you get hooked up with these guys?
Well, it started out maybe 4 seasons ago or whatever. But Jerry Wesley, who is the North American rep and distributor of Moonchild, he just hit me up one day. He was getting some MBAC gear from me, and he's like, "Hey, you want to try one of these boards? They're pretty cool." And so I test rode one, and it was like the Moonchild Malibu, and it was super fun, surfy, fun board. And so we just kind of maintained contact with them, and then they contacted me about doing a collab with them, because they have this program where they do all these collabs with different riders from the past or whatever, different former pros and stuff. And so it's just basically you get to design a one-off board, and then they have a little feature on it on their website. And so I did a collab with them, and I designed a board, and it was a swallowtail, much like one of their Space Racer boards. And loved it. It was because I was super into swallowtails for a while. All of that.
They ride way better in powder.
Great
just unbelievable in powder.
And there's something about the exits to turns, because that little bit of extra flex in the swallowtail allows for a little extra snap out of the turns, I feel,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so when I did that board with them, and then they had a new board, a prototype that they had just came up with, which was the Livewire, which is a more all-mountain board. And so they sent me one of those just to try it out, because it was and just give them some feedback on it design-wise and everything. And so I strapped it on, and it was the best feeling I've had on a board in years. I just instantly fell in love with that board. It was hands down, just had a blast on it. And so then I was like, well, hey, they were talking about doing a collab with them, and I said, well, instead of doing that swallowtail, let's do the Livewire. I want to do the Livewire as my as my model. So then we just collabed with them, and I did that one with the Norm Roke graphics, which is the old MBHC graphics with the skull and the raven, and the board. It's been very, very popular. Everyone that gets on it and rides it really likes it. It's traditional mild camber, slightly set back, slight bit of taper, good, slightly stiffer nose than the tail, which allows it to plane up and plow through the chop and all that kind of stuff. And the board, I love them. They ride really good.
Making me want to go snowboarding, dude. Yeah.
And then so that was the Livewire, and so that's the board I chose as my model. And then they have a couple, several other boards in their line. And the other one that I really, really enjoy is the one I was talking about, is the Malibu. And this is similar to my Livewire shape, except for in the tail it has a pintail, kind of like surfing.
Cool.
And in powder, it's effortless. It turns so easy, and it's just floaty, surfy, whipping around. It's so much fun.
It's a machine.
So, the company is just two guys that have been involved with the industry forever. Juris from Slovenia, and he's the mad scientist designer who does all the prototypes and off shapes. And then Marcus has been involved with the industry forever too, with Capita and Alon and some of those different companies. So those two combined together, and then started producing the Moonchild snowboards.
So that was your first pro model too, right?
Well, I did a model with Bass for Damage,
which was like a hammerhead or something.
It was a copy of the Christian Hosoi.
Dude, that was such a sick board. Oh my god!
And so I did that. 2 seasons with Bass with that hammerhead model.
Yeah.
but then there was some, like Bass was like trying to decide what he was going to do with the company and kind of changed up. And then Johnny Lupo took over.
Sick.
And now he is actually, which is even better because Johnny's now building all the boards himself instead of like Bass was having someone else make them for him. And there's a few issues, whatever. But now Johnny's producing them in his shop himself. And so there were some growing pains. So in that time when that was going on, that's when I kind of ended up hooking up with Moonchild and doing that stuff with them, figuring that, Johnny's going to take him a little bit to get up and going and get things figured out, and they've got it, and he's got his boards going, and they're making some really, really great boards.
Damage looks amazing.
Oh yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
and they're like he's applying the science of like what he knows. He like building boards that he knows are going to last. So kids are go buy a board, they can get several seasons out of it instead of just disposable boards like a lot of them are out there.
That's what Bass's program was too, right?
Like exactly. He's just taking the program he's just taking the reins from Bass because Bass is like he did his part and
he did it for so many years.
So
too.
It took a little bit for Johnny to get the whole process of just like anyone getting the production into a decent amount of boards. But this season it's looking really good this season, and so I ended up working with Moonchild, but Damage is still in my heart, and they're still part of like.
So your first pro model was in your 50s, then?
Let's see, so it was the late 50s, like late 50s.
I love it so much.
Yeah,
that's what our sport is supposed to be, or whatever you call this pastime. That's what snowboarding lost out on because of the ski industry. We had this. Okay, why am I saying because of the ski industry? I don't know. We just had this like scarcity kind of look to the future thing where we just didn't honor our legends until way too late in the game.
Just like anything, it takes a bit of time to even to where you can make it to where it has some legitimacy to it as far as like that kind of stuff goes. And so it took years for some of that to be recognized. But yeah, it's coming around now.
Yeah, it's like there were certain guys like Jamie and Matt who were lucky enough to get models on LibTech, which was, yes, that's why I said the ski thing. Yeah. Like if you're a ski company, you were just looking for the next hot rider that was going to sell a whole bunch of boards.
Right.
Whereas if you're Mike and Pete, you're like snowboarding is snowboarding. We're having fun. We picked Matt Cummings because he's the best, and he's going to have a model until he decides he's not doing a model anymore. Yeah. So, like, the Matt Cummings model has got to be...
Is the longest running pro model out there.
It'll probably be the longest running pro model ever. There is no people in the company in the whole of snowboarding that are going to start giving someone a pro model
and have it go that long. There's
40 years or 30 some odd years.
Over 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years ago was 94, and
he was
his first Matt Cummings was the Cat.
Yeah, it was like 80. I want to say it was like 89 or something probably. Like that. Yeah. So
that's super rad.
No, I think that's one of the things that I respect to those guys for doing, for like keeping Jamie around, keeping Matt around, like keeping them with a board, like
Barrett,
like
Temple.
going, and being like, you guys have done a lot for us, so we're gonna keep you around instead of being like a lot of the companies out there, like, oh, not time for the fresh piece of toast because you're done, you're soggy.
Well, it has to be because they don't have that problem in skateboarding.
Right.
Because the guys that own the big skateboard companies are skateboarders.
True. Yeah, exactly.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah. Pete and Mike. I saw Pete ride last year.
Oh, yeah.
And the year before at Holy Bully, the dude rips.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
He shreds.
Oh, yeah. He was just out surfing. Like, we had a little memorial service, like, a month or so ago out at La Push, and he was out there surfing and getting after it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're doers. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
they're not just in the industry to make money. They're there because they love it and they love doing it themselves. And that to me is key.
Me too. Yeah,
and that's the same with Moonchild too. It's like it's just two guys. They have real jobs besides the snowboard thing at their company. It's just kind of a little side thing.
Cool.
And mainly they did it because they were like, you can go on there, and if you want a custom board, you can go online. And they will build a board however you want. You can any shape, any size, whatever you want, they'll build complete custom boards for you. And so that's kind of where they started doing that. And then some of the boards that they produced were so, popular, like people kept, reproducing those boards. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
And they're both real cool. Like Marcus grew up near a Burton distributor as a kid, and like Craig Kelly was one of his, that's the other part of how I got involved, is that Craig Kelly was one of his heroes growing up. So then once he found out, my connection, then that kind of inspired him to have me involved with their company.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's awesome. I love, there's still huge pockets of that kind of cool shit all over snowboarding.
Yeah. That's what, and thankfully, I think that's what's keeping it alive, is all those little things, and there was a while where that kind of got squeezed out a little bit, but now it's kind of coming back and growing again, because it's just like, it's like anything. It's like, what would you rather have, something that's mass produced by some company that doesn't even know what snowboarding really is, or do you want to go get a board from guys that actually snowboard and love it and do it, and they're dreaming about it every night and drawing pictures of it every day? That's who I want to buy my snowboard from.
Same. Yeah. The MBHC thing that you're doing now, I'm just thinking about it in my head. Like, I always thought that the MBHC branding was mostly the stickers, and I thought that they mostly came from the Mount Baker snowboard shop. In fact, I think I thought that they were made by Marcella and the Baker snowboard shop.
Right.
But those old MBHC stickers, that was somebody. That was you guys?
That was me.
That was
me
you personally.
It was me and Carter Turk.
Yeah.
And Eric Janko.
Yeah.
We went together and we had started a little company, and did just produce stickers, and we had some just soft goods, like stickers and shirts and sweatshirts.
Way back in the day. What would that have been? 93, 94, 92?
That was probably like 89 through the like 90s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And then we did it together, and then kind of fell apart a little bit, and then Carter took over, and Carter was like Carter's thing for quite a while, and he had his little shop there in Bellingham. It was called Carter's Carving Edge.
Sick.
And he was one of the first shops to have an actual like bass grinder and do tunes. And he was a tuning and repair guru.
I love this.
And so then he was doing, out of his shop there, he was doing the shirts and the stickers and stuff. But then he sold the shop, got out of that, and then it just kind of fell off for a long time. And then, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I was digging through some of my stuff, and I found one of my old stickers, and I was like, oh, rad. I was like, maybe I'll go make some. So I went in and like made another like 200 stickers, and like they were so everyone was like, oh, I want one of those. So then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just. So I just kind of started. I talked to Carter, and I was like, hey, what are you doing with it? And he's like, no, you can have it. So then I was just, just slowly started, putting out the stuff again, and it's just like. Just stickers and beanies and hoodies and stuff. Just soft.
How do people get them? How do we get people?
Just you can contact me through. There is a site that's going to be coming up, website soon. But for right now, it's just basically contacting me through either like, phone, Instagram, Facebook, and then saying, hey, I want some of that swag, and then I get your information and I send it out to you. So it's still just like a little garage.
That's what I'm doing with the FNRad stuff too. I've got now you can get small runs of stickers, high quality, good stickers made, within a couple of days. If you've got good, exactly. You don't even need good artwork. The last sticker I made, I took my old sticker and I traced it, hand drew it. Sent it down to them. They made hand-drawn ones. Yeah. So it's kind of fun.
It's not going to make you fun.
It's not going to make you rich or a millionaire, but it is a connection directly to people. Like I love stuffing the envelopes, writing the person's name on there, getting a stamp, sending it out. Like
that part's fun. That part I enjoy that part too. For some reason, it's funny because I was just thinking about that as I packaged one up the other day, and I was just like, I enjoy this part of it. It's just like, and I don't know what it's. Maybe it's because I feel like maybe a little bit like Santa Claus or something. Because sure. They're going to be excited, and it's going to be Christmas time when they get a little package of stuff.
Yeah, I think that the process is. There's something a little bit mind blowing about the fact that you can write someone's name on a piece of paper, and then give like $1.12 or whatever a stamp costs.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to bring that all the way to their door in North Carolina or something. It just. It's wild. It's a wild process. I love doing it.
Yeah. Me
So
too.
I'm always going to have stickers on hand. I'm terrible at promotion. But then if I was good at it, I'd probably get overwhelmed with how many I had to send out.
Right. So I'm the same way. It's like it's like I'll put a little thing out once in a while, a little blurb about it, but then I just kind of like take care of whatever comes in and just kind of just let it sit. And it's like, but in some ways, like it's probably better that way because it keeps like just like those guys like maybe it keeps a little bit more of the mystique, because it isn't just something you see everywhere, like you kind of have to know, you gotta know to know to get it, kind of deal. And I kind of like that part of it a little bit.
Felt cool to connect with the N-Men thing when we were down in California.
That was funny because it's another giant circle because I had in one of my early trips down to Tahoe, and I had to been like, I think it was 85, that trip with Swanee. I ended up going over and riding like Homewood with like Keith Kimmel and let's see, it was Mickey Alba, Steve Alba's brother.
Whoa.
And then what's his face that was there, Kevin Thatcher was there.
Yeah.
So it's Kevin Thatcher, Mickey Alba, Keith Kimmel, and one other skater. So and I was like, at the time, it was like those guys, like especially like Mickey Alba and stuff, they were in the magazines.
Huge,
and I was like, it was a big deal for. It was like for me to go snowboard with them, like right around. That was like kind of a big deal, and but I was a good snowboarder at the time, so I was like I was maybe probably even better than they were on their snow. But it was just cool to go snowboard around with these guys that were kind of like my skateboard heroes, like at the time.
Yeah.
So then to run into them, 40 years later or 35 years later down there, it's just like wow. It's pretty cool.
They're still doing it. You're still doing it. It's like, that was the main thing. So I was trying to figure out, do I go to the homecoming event? Is that what they call it? Homecoming in Vermont or somewhere? Is it?
It's in Vermont. Yeah.
It's in New England. Yeah. Do I go to that? Cause there's so many legends going to that thing.
Yes.
And then, or do I go to, or do I just stay home and ride PAL, whatever?
Yeah.
And then Bass invited me to go on the trip, and I was like, oh, God, I can't say no to that ever. Yeah. That's like going to be so rad. And it was that feeling of like meeting people in the parking lot and then riding with them.
Yeah.
Like from so long ago, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh my God, that's Malba for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
We're riding with Malba right now.
Yeah.
And that was me the whole time.
That's
I'm
cool.
like, oh my God, we're riding with Evan Fiend. That was nuts for me.
Yeah.
To just be in a crew where Evan Fiend is riding with us.
Yeah.
Because he's such an incredible part of Canadian snowboarding.
Oh, yeah.
He was up in Vancouver doing it before anyone.
Oh, yeah.
And ruling.
Oh, yeah.
Which is amazing. It's crazy that so in Canada, when I was a kid growing up, Canada would produce these like in between, cartoon commercials about Canadian heritage. I think basketball was invented in Canada.
Oh yeah,
and they have these little reenactments.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the beach basketball on a mountain. From then on, it was called basketball, and we are those guys for snowboarding. Like we were duct taping our boots.
Yeah.
We were, like Ethan Stone is the guy who put the toe cap on the binding.
Yeah.
And then it was toe cap bindings, it's wild that we're witnesses to that.
Oh yeah. It still blows my mind to think that I was there, when, it was like a rope and a couple bungee straps for bunnies,
right.
and to see and to watch that progression to where we are now, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and to think that I'm going. When I first saw you snowboarding, and I saw you come down the hill, I'm like, that's a guy who knows what the fuck is up. Like your style's so on point.
Thanks.
You're ripping, right? Ripping now. You could still get any one of these shots of like nice deep powder, big fucking like confident turn right now, 64 years old. Yeah. Like those dudes with the peach baskets, they never got to the point where they would do a layup,
Right.
like Michael Jordan or someone. Like they didn't get to participate after a time, right? Because it's a young guy's sport.
It was a young guy sport, and also back then there was like, you're going to play sports till you're this age, and then you're done. You got to have a family and get a career and do like
19, and then you're going to war, and then you're coming home and having a family.
Having a family and raising your kids. And so that's kind of like, that's changed a bit, Yeah,
like, Dave the Weaver said that what did he keep calling it? That he thought he was going to put it away.
Yeah.
And his parents thought he was going to put it away. Because it's like, yeah, dude, you can't make your whole life having fun.
Right.
You're going to have to at some point like hunker down, get the shitty job, do 40 years of that, then retire. You can go back to having fun a little bit or whatever. But no.
And that's where
trivial pursuits. That's what he called it. He's like, it's snowboarding, it's surfing, it's skateboarding, and these trivial pursuits.
Right.
It's like he's made a whole life of doing it.
True.
Which is sick.
And for me, I kind of came to that decision early on, kind of even before snowboarding, or right around snowboarding time, because or right in there, because my parents both, they did that, they did after war, kids, all that, bike shop, career, and then they both. I lost both my parents before they got to retire, so they never got their retirement part of it, right? Wow. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, early on, I was like, well, I am not gonna work my life away until I'm 70 for some retirement, and then not be able to actually really enjoy it. I was like, I'd rather live it now if it means I'm not gonna get rich, but I'm gonna go out and make myself rich in experiences and do those things and travel around and, experience life and be active now while I physically can do it, and while my mind's open and I'm open to new things and like I'm willing to go try new foods and try things and run here or ride this or do that, because I'm now I'm 64, I'm getting older. I get more, you get more set in your ways, and I'm not physically able to do some of the things I used to be able to do. I mean, I'm still okay at a lot of stuff, but so that whole idea or that whole dream of working your life away for retirement to me is just not, it doesn't add up. It really doesn't add up. It's like, it's fine to work and make money and have savings, but you have to live now, because there's no guarantees,
That's the truth.
And that's what snowboarding is good. It is, because it's, when you are snowboarding, you're in the now. You're living. You're in the moment, and everything else just kind of goes away. And so I think that's one of the most powerful things about it, is like, it is kind of the true essence. Like you are like I said, you become one with the mountain, and you just you're free in some ways, like
part of something bigger than yourself. You're in the present moment, like you said, so you're not thinking about, oh, I should have done this. And you're not thinking, oh, I should do that. Right. Like there's no future.
I'm going to go down there and I'm going to slash that.
Yeah, totally. And then it's got all the life lessons in it. The money lessons. You look and you see the guys that have all the money, and you're like, oh, they're not going heli.
Yeah,
they're not using the money to. That would be a waste to them.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's like the other way around.
Yeah.
It's a waste to have money and not have experiences.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think, like, the experience of having a lot of money in my bank account is stressful, actually.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, having nothing in my bank account is also stressful, but it doesn't change.
There's a really old article that Ken Achenbach wrote for one of those magazines about the keys.
Yeah.
And it's boom. Like he hit it nailed on the head on that one, and so
keys, that's it. It's the key to life, right? Is to live, to actually live.
Yeah.
That's so there's no greater feedback than living snowboarding for me.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah. And like, all that stuff. Falling down, you get back up.
Summertime for me is mountain biking.
Yeah.
It's like same. It's like snowboarding, same deal,
Yeah.
It's like I'm out there in the mountains with friends, and just having fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, big thank you to your parents for buying the bike shop, listening to you when you were like, oh, we could rent these boards, you know?
So lucky that that they were willing to listen and give it a shot. And,
What a cool time too, to be, you know, traveling. I love that you went to the 84 Worlds. Is that the first one you went to? Mm-hmm. And then the 85 Worlds.
Yes.
Who did you go to? You just figured this out. 84
so
was
84
with
was
Craig.
with Craig and one of his classmates from the University of Washington. I can't remember his name now, but he basically saved my life because on the way down, it was super gnarly, icy roads, and we saw this car go off the highway, and so we pulled over to make sure the person was all right. And I got out of the car and I was standing there. Another car slid off the road, and my buddy grabbed me and pulled me out of the way just in time or the car would have hit me.
Oh my God.
So that guy, I can't remember his name, but it was Craig's classmate from the University of Washington. He had saved my life on the drive down there.
Wasn't Krieger, was it?
It might have been.
Yeah, Jeffrey Krieger.
It could have been.
Yeah.
That very well could
dope,
be.
Man.
Very could be. But,
Craig took him up. So first week of school, Krieger had been off for a car accident or something, so he was behind a year. And first week of school, Craig, was playing Judas Priest. Jeffrey goes in his room and is like, sees all these snowboards. What the hell is this? And Craig's like, I'll show you what it is. Let's go hike Rainier. Which, when he first told me that story, I thought, yeah, go hike Rainier. It's kind of the same as going to hike, Shuckson or something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like accessible, you drive most of the way up. No, it was like an overnight camping trip in the mountains.
Yeah,
I
did.
Yeah.
So I did one of those, just a funny story. One of the first times I went down there with Craig, one of the first times to hike up Rainier, because it was like early season before there's snow up here. And so we went down there and we drove, met him at his university and then drove all the way down the Rainier and did all that, hiked up. And we hiked up, we did one run down. And then as I'm bending down to unclip my binding or my strap on the dilts, Craig jumps up, spins in the flat, just in the snow right there, jumps up and spins the 360 on a snowboard, trying to do the 360 and just clocked me right in the head with his board and split my head open.
No.
Yeah, and so we had to go get stitches. So I got one run and then it was off to hours away for stitches in the head. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So, as talented as he was, there was a time when he was kind of a dork.
Yeah, I saw that photo someone posted the other day. It's kind of a collage. He's in a MBHC shirt. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was one I'd never seen before. Just somebody took a photo of him in a shop somewhere and put it up.
That was at Marcella's shop.
That was at the Mount Baker snowboard shop. Super sick. And it's so cool to see, he was a joyous person, joyful dude. He was happy about snowboarding.
Oh yeah, he was happy. Yeah, he was happy in life. He was always pretty,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Driven,
dude. Driven and a little devious too.
Yeah. I love those stories. Unbelievable.
He always had some sort of
ketchup in your boots or something like you guys putting the stickers on Dano's board or something.
That was so good.
Did you guys? Was there ever any tension when you became a judge?
No, not really. If anything, it was like, maybe, I don't know, but maybe some people thought that maybe I favored Craig. I always felt like that was my pressure that I felt. It was like, because I was friends with Craig, I was like, I always felt that people would think that maybe I scored him, better. But I always, if anything, was kind of probably harder on him just because of that. Because self-consciously, I was like, but I do know that, I know he was. When Palmer, in 1990, when Palmer beat him at Breckenridge, he was not happy.
With you because you were one of the judges.
Or judges, maybe with the judges in general, I don't know, or just not happy that he
says it in Bored with the World. He says, Palmer had good runs, but I thought I had better ones.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, watching it now as a 50-year-old man versus when I saw it when I was brainwashed Craig. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I was Burton brainwashed. I loved everything that he did. That's a little bit of a thing I don't think I would have put in my movie. You know what I mean? Like that I thought I won when you want to be that gracious guy that just goes, you know what? Palmer beat me. Better guy won that day. But there was something there that he really felt like
he felt, well, you know, it's just like the whole skateboarding argument at the time was like Hawk versus Osoyoos.
Yeah.
And it was exactly that. It was like
technical tricks.
Like a lot of difficult technical tricks. But then you got this guy who's doing technical tricks, maybe not as many, but the amplitude.
It's huge.
Just the amplitude.
Yeah.
And just the powerful style of which he did it. Like at that run that day, like it was just his style, like his power and his style. He was just, he was going to win. Like, he wanted to win.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, that's the thing. I think Chantry talked about it, or Bostic. I think Chantry, though, about like, what do you want to promote in the future? Right. Do you want Jimmy Scott or do you want Terry? It's up to you.
Yeah.
You want a bunch of technical, small, little things to win because that's what we're judging for?
Right.
Or do you want the guy that took the risks, went fucking huge, didn't look like he was crazy out of control, but didn't have enough time to do 20 of those hits because he
did 5 because they're also huge.
Yeah. And it's a no-brainer. It's like, you want to promote that.
Yeah.
You want to judge for that.
And when it left the hands of snowboarders being judges is when it left that aspect of it kind of got pushed to the back and now is more important about the technical end of it, you know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and if you're a competitive snowboarder, I'm not taking anything from you. If that's what's driving you in the sport, great.
Go at
but
it.
You've got to, you're trapped by what you've chosen, that the judging format is what you have to ride to.
Right.
If you want to win.
And it comes down to, it's like, judging an event is still just 5 people's opinion.
Right.
I mean, and that's the reality of it. You know,
when natural selection happens, it's just like, I'm in a group chat where it just fires up. Like, what?
Well,
that
and
guy
that's the
got
one. Like,
robbed.
I'm actually, at my time, judging wasn't so difficult because there was levels. There's certain people that were, or certain riders that were above a lot of the other ones, so it's pretty easy to like discern out. But nowadays, like, I wouldn't want to have to judge one of those events. Like, they're all ripping.
It's the same problem.
Yeah.
It's like the judges will say, I think the one year Rasman, it felt like Rasman got robbed.
Yeah.
They had told all the competitors, 2 backside 3s are going to score way lower than a backside 3 and a frontside 3.
Right.
So, like, if someone did a small frontside 3 and a big backside 3, that's going to score better than 2 big or even bigger backside 3s, right? And so, like, you're watching it going, hold on, technically he did 3 tricks. Like, I was, like, counting tricks. Like, what happened in the run? He did 3 huge tricks. This guy did 1 small trick and 2 big tricks. How does he beat him?
Right.
But
it was because they're judging more on the technicality or the variety of the run.
They're trying to set those parameters for action.
Right.
Like, take more risks. We're going to give someone who bails on a bigger risk a higher score than someone who runs the same line and does the same things. Even though the guy that runs the same line does the same things is going to do them all bigger and have a better run.
Yeah.
The guy that's off exploring and breaking new trail and trying harder stuff, we have to give them the benefit here. It's the exact same format problem. Yeah. That's the problem with competition, is that it doesn't really represent snowboarding that well.
No, it does. I mean, it represents small aspects of it.
Yes.
But it doesn't, it doesn't really, I mean.
It can't capture it because it's life. It's just life. It's like you are living when you're snowboarding.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're living a tragedy. You're like, oh man, I missed my turn to get in here, and now I either have to hike up or just
wallow out.
Oh no, right? Like being in those flats under the chair. I actually got first tracks under chair 8, the cliff at the end. It's not even a cliff. By the end of the year, it's just a rollover. Yeah. But we used to race for that thing. Yeah. Remember, it used to be like...
Oh, Blood Alley. That was Blood.
Is that what it was called? Yeah. Blood Alley. Yeah. But if you overshot it to flat, you were walking out on top of it.
There was a ways to get to the...
And I landed... I either went over the bars or something. I didn't have to hike out. You can figure your way out of it. But, you know, getting some calls from the chair for sure. Oh, yeah. Because now you see people backflip off that other thing down to the... rider's right of it, like huge crazy backflips that just put them down every time, and like the level of everything has gone so high up. But I just that was like such a throwback to the early Baker days for me, where it was like a pow day. You just like find the biggest thing. If it's under the chair, it's even better, because if you land it, you're gonna get some cheers. There's nothing better than that. You're just living life. Yeah. Sick, Jeff. Nice. All right. I think we hit pretty much everything.
Okay, good.
I kind of wanted to talk a bit about Ranquet and how many people in your friend group have struggled with like harsh addiction. Like he came out this year as I had no idea that he had been smoking meth. I mean, maybe a little, some of his behavior was kind of in that realm, but
when you feed off adrenaline and then you don't get that as constant as you used to, you still have that need for that kind of that feeling.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with injuries and body breakdown and
prescription drugs. Sometimes will get you in there.
You mix those two. You start mixing those two together. It's really easy to fall off, and for a lot of people, it's really hard to admit that you have a problem, and it's so much easier just to live in denial that whole time, or to tell yourself, like by telling yourself that you don't have a problem, so that it's like, oh, I don't have a problem. Those people are just whatever, and that's really prevalent, and it's sad. And I've seen a lot. I've lost some really good friends over it. And luckily, with Mike, I think finally it's been a long journey, and I think he's finally made the corner. And I hope so, because I love the guy. I mean, he's my little buddy. He's like my little brother. Like, he was just a dude, and he's always been so rad. And I love that he's always paved his own path and willing to be outspoken, and doesn't care that. If it offends someone, that's okay. He's still going to tell the truth, right? Or what he feels is
his
the truth,
thing. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's something about him that I like, that part of that. He's not afraid to rock the ship or do whatever it takes to to tell people how he feels and what his opinion and how he feels like snowboarding.
That goes all the way back to his childhood, right? Like, because he was like a pretty young kid with a vert ramp.
Oh yeah,
I remember someone was telling me a story of being at his vert ramp, and the cops came, and like a 11 or 12-year-old Mike Ranquet is telling the cops to fuck off, like get out of here.
It's my private property. Go away. You don't have a warrant. Go away.
So he would have got a lot of approval from that early on, and that like outspoken gatekeeping Mike Ranquet definitely put its own spin on snowboarding. At one point he was claiming like Craig changed when he started listening to Ranquet on like certain style choices.
I think that because there was a kind of this whole that kind of group of like, because Craig didn't skateboard very much, right? But there was the crew that did, Palmer, Ranquet, Hetzel, all these guys, and they were all adamant about style, and how snowboarding looks, and what looks good and what doesn't look good.
Totally.
And they were like, that's kooky, this is cool. This, and pretty much they were pretty much spot on most of the stuff they called out, because
totally.
it was like skating is gnarly, but it's stylish. You watch,
super
and it's
stylish.
sick.
Yeah.
And because we got these big boards instead of like a small board, we had options to grab and do things in weird spots that didn't really look that great.
Sure.
Right? And so someone had to come along. Yeah. Someone had to come along and be like, all right, enough of, like, we're not wearing tutus, we're not fucking circus clowns.
Gesture hats. Come on.
Yeah,
guys.
the whole gesture hats.
Yeah,
That whole thing was like that was happening.
It was, right.
And those guys were like, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You're not going to ruin my sport.
Yep.
Yeah. It's actually way radder than that. It's way radder than some stupid gesture hat, Just go out and do it,
Totally.
And so that, I always respected Mike and those guys for that, like being very strong on their opinions about that,
Roach was always style.
Oh, yeah.
Style.
Oh, Roach, dude, yeah. None of those, like, I have my list of like more snowboarders that style, and they had influence on the sport in the right direction, and Chris is definitely one of those guys on that list.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
the catchphase for Flojoy is refresh your style.
Nice.
Which is like,
oh yeah, I mean,
yeah, because he's got such good style.
Like his grassers, some of those nose pokes that he did were just like, and like he knew because he was a skateboarder. He knew where to grab, how to tuck, what body positions look good.
Yeah,
and he was really good. Yeah, he was good at that. I mean, he was
so there's there
he still is. I mean, he's still ripping. Like he's still.
And his kid is just like Cannon Cummings. Those guys.
That was one of the fun things that I loved about the Legends event was seeing all the kids of the kids of the kids, as I call it, that were ripping and competing against each other again, and I thought that was so cool.
That was so sick. Yeah, unbelievable, dude. I'm so honored that. It's gonna be 10 years ago now. Was the first time I had you on the show.
When you said that, I was like blown away that it's. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was like.
And I think you've been doing a really fantastic job. And
thanks.
I've seen the growth and like
right,
and it's great. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy you do a really great job. And it's like it's because you love snowboarding, and you have a true passion for it, and that's what separates the rad from the non-rad. You know what I mean? Like,
thanks, buddy. I totally I understand. I one of the things I've learned over 10 years is how to take a compliment better. I was always bad at that, but I think I've found my calling, right? Like when people talk about that stuff, I know I have because of how much opportunity I've gotten in my life to live fully within the snowboard space. That where I'm at an event and I'm getting to ride with the raddest people at the event. I'm like, as if what the hell is going on here? Yeah. I've always been that guy who's been watching these guys from afar going, following Jamie down the canyons going, oh, wow, I wish we could ride with this guy. Meanwhile, we were riding with him. If we would have just had the courage to step up and just be like, hey,
hi,
you guys, hello, hi. Yeah. Can we ride with you? Yeah, if you can keep up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, it's been a real honor, and something changed for sure when you came riding. I can still see it in my mind, down to chair 5, and it was just so smooth and cool. There was something just cool in the way that you rode.
Oh,
I remember
thank you.
I said it to you at the time. I'm like, I know that's somebody. And so we rode up the chairlift together. Yeah. That's how we met.
Yeah.
Was that I was like, fuck, that guy's riding super smooth. And by the time we got to, the middle of the chair, I'm like, oh, Jeff Fulton. Yeah, okay, I know who you are.
Yeah, because you were looking around for Rankwood, I think.
It could have been a yeah.
You were looking around for. I think you came up there to meet Rankwood or something.
Yeah,
looking around for him.
Would that have been during the D-Day times?
Yes,
probably.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
D-Day. Yep.
Yep, and I'm like, oh, there he is. Maybe no, that's not him, but that's somebody. Absolutely. And then you've always been so open and sweet to talk to, and really inviting to have me in your home. Like, unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
And really forthcoming about your experiences with, with the whole thing.
Well, I'm just really grateful because, it's like, if it wasn't for snowboarding, I don't know if I'd even, might not be here, but I mean, just it has been my kind of like my guiding force in my life for a long time, and then it's been good.
Yeah. Well, you've been a guiding force for a lot of people too. I know Mike Ranquit, when he was going on one of his rants on his podcast about the snowboard industry, he was like, how come nobody's printing, no one's sponsoring Jeff Fulton? Like, guys, get your head out of your fucking ass, Like Jeff Fulton, if you don't know who that is, then you shouldn't even be here. Like, This is our spot. This is our, the gatekeepers have done a great job. And actually, you're one of those guys, because you were the one that recognized the talent in a young Craig. And you're like, this guy's if I can get this guy to do it, then I've got a little van full of people that I can bring around. Yeah. And it's an excuse let's get him out of the BMX realm and get him hooked on this thing.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And it worked for so many of us. Like I said, I drove 4 hours to buy my first Craig Kelly board and got bored with the world and played it on loop for a year. And without that event happening in my life, I have no idea where I'd be. Same as you. I don't think that I would be here. I was headed down a pretty kind of counterculture path. But if you don't have an outlet for that, that means drugs or worse.
Yeah.
Crime, drugs, whatever it was, right? Like outside the mainstream.
Yeah.
And then you find this snowboard thing, and you're like, oh, this is the thing.
This is it.
This is it. I'll just do this.
Yeah.
I'll move 100% across the country to be where there's mountains to do this.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shit, now I have to learn how to do it in mountains. Rad, dude.
Yeah, well, sweet.
Yeah, it smells amazing in here. What's cooking right now?
Beef short ribs.
Beef short ribs. Braised beef short ribs. And you got something going on the stove too.
Some potatoes to put all that goodness on.
Potatoes.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. Yeah, when we were down in Tahoe, you guys really, it wasn't your first rodeo. You threw a really, really amazing dinner party where Evan and all those guys came. I was so exhausted, I went and fell asleep.
Yeah.
And also, you know what? I'll be honest. I was a little afraid that if I got too hammered, that the Clark Kent Eric would turn into the Superman house wrecking, pee in the hot tub,
in the closet.
Yeah, face down, wake up in the morning woohoo, this is it. But you guys were having a blast.
Yeah, I love that event. It's fun.
Yeah, you guys did it up so perfect. Perfect. That spot that you rented was incredible.
Yeah, hopefully get that place again.
Yeah, you guys going to go again this year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every year. We'll rent a big house again.
Yeah, I got to get in on the guys that pay this time. I got in last minute somehow. I snuck it in there.
That's all right.
You're welcome to join us again this year.
Yeah,
sure.
please. That'll be epic. Yeah. Right on.
It'll be a hustle though, because I'll be coming right back from Baldface.
Oh, you've got your Baldface week booked?
Yeah, with Bob Klein and the guys from Peter Dressen and all the Sims snowboard collectors from Europe.
Whoa. Yeah.
So they got a trip together and ended up getting in on it. So
that's super
my
great.
first time to Baldface. So
you're gonna love it so much. Yeah. Pensiero has put together. I mean, the whole crew at Baldface has put together an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, but it's like you were saying. It's like it was just kind of hard for me. I was like, I really want to drop that much money just for 3 days of riding powder, but it's it's one of those things you just have to do, I guess.
You have to do it. I absolutely had to do it.
Yeah.
I got the opportunity last year, and what people usually do is then they book the same week the next year.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to be one of those guys. I just don't have that kind of cash.
Right.
But it's 100% worth it. 100% worth it. Yeah.
Well, I'll do it just to do it and get it done and have it be done. But I think that if I do any kind of trips like that again, I would I'd go to Alaska and do some of the stuff up there.
Yep.
Or just back to Japan.
That was the thing.
Dude, Japan is like amazing because not only that, but you got the whole culture, the experience of the culture, of the food and the people, and just all the onsens and everything is just amazing. You know?
Yeah, I talked to I don't know his name. I should know his name. The guy from Mint Tours. When I was down in Denver, he had a booth at the event down there and at Mecca, and I was like, hearing in his voice, like he's like, dude, if you want to do some sort of collab, FNRad and Mint Tours, we could probably make a trip to Japan happen. And I was like, yes, are you shitting me? We should do a Legends tour through Mint to Japan. Yeah. I've never been. It's a bucket list.
Yeah, I want to go back for sure.
I saw that clip of you spraying Craig. Is that from Japan? It is.
Yes. That's from that's that spot.
Exit, the movie. Yeah.
It's Tenjin Dara, which is one of my favorite places. Like,
talk about that moment because you guys are friends, close friends,
right?
And when you ride together, spraying someone when you're on a doubles run is like.
It's just it's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, and so from the early days, riding up here before we would it was like we would put your buddy in the white room, it was like trying to just fucking white him out and Craig was really good at it. He was always like just good enough to be able to like get you all the time, and it was really hard to get him. And so during that filming, I saw it. Like, I don't know why, but I saw it. I knew it. I was like, I'm gonna get him. I'm finally gonna get him. Put him in that white room. And I love it because you see him going like, his arms yes, finally got him, and it's on film.
And it's on film, and it's like a Bluebird day. Like it's a sunny white room.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
We were the whole time we were there. It was like storms would roll in at about 6:00 in the afternoon, and it would dump all night, and then it'd be clear in the morning, and there'd be like a couple feet of fresh pow every day. It was one of the most fun trips I've ever been on as far as that goes. It was
somebody
pretty incredible.
I just met up in Squamish, is from Tahoe, and she was saying that it takes some time to get used to Graybird, right? Because in Tahoe there's weather that happens overnight, and then it's Bluebird in the day.
Yeah.
But we don't have that.
No. That's one of the hardest things for me now, especially as I'm getting older. My vision is those days, those flat light, those hard days. It's getting harder and harder for me to like. I ride so much timid, then on a sunny day when I can actually really see well. There's a big difference in my riding.
Yeah, I've definitely shifted from freestyle Eric to free ride Eric. I barely grab my board. I'm not drawn to like.
I grab my board, but it's
stuff.
usually when it's coming out of the ski rack.
Yeah, that's it. So my boots are too stiff. I have no excuses. As I'm getting older, I'm losing certain parts of what was really driving me in the first place. Like trying to do some big air over a rock or something. Like now, I'm like, I won't even take a chance that I'm going to hit a rock. That's a bad idea.
Yeah,
I'd rather get up early. Hit turn after turn after turn.
Yeah,
that's just the way
feeling. It is. I'm feeling that same way too. It's like my board doesn't leave the ground as like not that much, a little bit, but not nearly like it used to. But also it's just because of the fact, because now it's like I'll go down and I'll see a hit, or over there's a fucking pow slash. I was like, I'll take the pow slash just because it's like I know it's like not going to be jarring on my body at all. Whereas if I'd hit, if I don't do it perfect. And don't hit that tranny perfect, it's going to be jarring. I'm going to feel it. That's part of getting old. That's all right.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. Like I couldn't even imagine when I was a kid that I would still be doing these trivial pursuits. I just couldn't. It wasn't in the lexicon. It wasn't there. You didn't have old athletes.
Yeah. You have after it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about the legend things that kind of blew me away. You get down there and there's, guys like Evan and people in late 50s, early 60s, and they're still just getting after it.
Ripping too. That's the best part of it. And frothing. Ripping, frothing.
Just Yeah.
Keeps you young.
Yeah, it does.
I'm
Child
hoping.
at heart.
I'm hoping. I've said it on the show, and it was a wonderful moment for me. Eric Janko turned 50. I was 40, and the kid we were with was 30. And we're kind of all looking at each other on the chair going like, hat tip to Janko, like, dude, I hope I'm still shredding like you when I'm 50.
Yes.
You know? And now here I am, I'm that. Now I'm looking at you, you're 64, like, Jesus. I hope that I'm still, I still know when the Baker local swag thing is,
Yes.
right? When I'm 64, come on, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're still in the industry. You got a pro model for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
What's a bro model?
Bro model. Okay.
But yeah.
You got a bro model.
No, yeah.
Right.
I'm excited about that. It was like, and that's something else I'll say to anyone that's listening. It's just like, if you do something and it's something you love and you have dreams or wishes, don't ever give up, because you never know when those dreams might be able to come true. And that happened for me. I mean, that was kind of one of those things early on, those times in the 90s when all my friends were getting models, pro models. And I was like, fuck, I want a pro model, And then I was like, finally, it's like, it's just never going to, it's not going to happen. But I kept dreaming. I was like, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep dreaming about it. And then it happened, So anything's possible.
Yeah, that's dope. Thanks, Jeff. Mm-hmm. We'll end it right there.
Certainly.
Killer. FNRad shoutouts to Jeffrey and Angie. Thanks for making braised beef ribs and serving up a hell of a meal. And thanks for doing the show. Special thanks this week to last week's guest, PJ Gustafson. We'll be doing the draw for his Death Label Pro Model with union bindings at the beginning of December to benefit Save a Brain Foundation. Thank you, Patreon listeners, and be sure to come back next week for more FNRad snowboarding presented by Flojoy Water and brought to you by FNRad Productions.